So, welcome everybody to the council meeting on the 6th of October 2020. If we start, because I failed to bring in AOB at the last meeting. One of the items has been dealt under delegate authority, but I do have an issue to be raised by Councillor Coyle. And if you want to bring it in at this stage, if you can.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me? I would just like to request yourself to send a letter of congratulations to the Ederney St Joseph's GAC. After a fantastic game of football, Ederney eventually bridged their 52 years gap to win and become the Fermanagh Senior Champions 2020. I would like to congratulate the whole team on their success, but a special mention must be given to Marty McGrath, the man of the match, for his dedication to his community. I'd like to commiserations to Derek Onley. They've been great ambassadors over this last 5 years, and I have spoken to locals, and they are over the moon and so proud of everyone involved. It has brought great excitement to the village, both to young and old, and I thank you for allowing me to raise this.
Okay, I'm happy enough to do that. Councillor Swift.
Yeah, Gormagat, thank you, Cahirlock, and I'll concur with John Coyle's comments, absolutely. And we are glorious in defeat, Ederney Harps, and I too would like to congratulate Ederney. It's always great to see a small club like Ederney who have awaited 52 years for victory. So I commend them in their victory and deserving of their win on the day. And just to say to Derrigonley Harps, thank you very much to the team for the 5 glorious years of victories that we've had in holding up the silverware in the New York Gold Cup. And I think deserving of such a wonderful victory as well. After 52 years, Ederney clubs and Josephs are deserving of a civic reception, something appropriate, Chairman, in these COVID times. So whenever it's appropriate to do so, I think a marked celebration in light of a civic reception would be something appropriate. So I'm sure the councillor for Earn North will support that. And again, because Derrigonley Harps were winning so many years in a row, we didn't meet the criteria for civic receptions. But if some little marked celebration could be had for them also, it would be nice. And the crack that was had on the day was fantastic. Worth noting sporting commentary on the day. I think it was about 15 minutes into the first half. Some of the fans and supporters shouted down to the referee, "Come on, ref, blow up the full-time whistle," because Ederney obviously wanted to win. They didn't want to think, I suppose, maybe, that if we went to full-time that the Harps would be defeated. But anyway, good luck, more bus anyway, to both teams, but especially Ederney. Hard luck to the Derrigonley Harps, but we will be back.
Yeah, I'm happy enough to liaise with the chief executive to see what appropriate marking can be done for that occasion. Now, I noticed 2 other speakers. This was only brought in because it wasn't brought in at the last meeting by my error. So if it's about this, grand. If it's about something else, please hold it to AOB. Councillor Curry.
I didn't think they'd won at the last meeting, but just want to support that. I think John said it very well there, and great comments by Bernice as well. It's a fantastic win. It means everything. It's a great community out there, and just massive congratulations. And it would be great. I know these are tough times, but it would be great if it can be marked somehow, and maybe in days to come. And just to say, actually, as well done to Derrigonley. Big upset, but it's just great to see Ederney getting it. So just want to support that. Gurmil Mogget.
Okay, Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I also just want to add my congratulations to the village of that far from over the road there. So my congratulations to Sid. it also would be just want to congratulate our own leader in Philip, who this year reached the final for the second year in a row.
Stephen, well, as I say, this is quite niche. So we can just hold that to AOB because I need to keep things sort of half.
Right, 2
half
seconds
level
to
there.
finish this if you want. I say 2 seconds to just wrap it up. I'll start maybe, so if you're happy enough.
Well, go on ahead then.
Good man, thanks, Chris. Yeah, just my congratulations to Anthony and congratulate the Select Club and getting the second year in a row. Unfortunately, to be this year, but they kept the village spirits up, and also we're on the 14th team as well. Won the county final for the first time, I believe. So again, the club's leading the way there. So want to add my congratulations to the Select Club as well. And maybe Chair, if you can see that, congratulations to all involved.
Yeah, I sort of lost you there. I don't know if you dropped out, but I think I got what you were trying to get at there. Trillic as well.
You got the
Yeah, no, I see the mic's catching you breathing. Hopefully that's a wee bit better now. Anyway, if we move now to apologies, we'll go to the group leaders first. Oh, sorry, a seconder for that second one for Trillic. Somebody can shout out. I'm sure there'll be no Councillor Garrity.
Completed second, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Top class. Now, if we move to apologies, we go to the group leaders. Have we got any apologies from Sinn Féin?
No apologies, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, from the Ulster Unionists?
No apologies, Chair.
From the DUP?
No apologies, Chair.
From the SDLP?
Thank you, Chair. No apologies tonight. Thank you.
From any of the independents or single member parties?
Chair, Eamon Keenan has sent an apology as well as not too well.
Yeah, and I've received one from Councillor Donnelly. So those will be noted. If we now move to item 2, to confirm and sign the minutes of the council meeting held on the 1st of September 2020, which is paper A. If we go through, let's see now. Item 2, 1st September. Okay, we go through it page by page.
Chair, can I just make a quick comment? I think there's something wrong with your mic, because every time you breathe, there's a really loud interference, unless it's just on my end, but it seems to be your mic that's doing it. So
I'm trying to move it as far away from my mouth as I can get. Is that any better?
you must start breathing.
I might stop breathing. What about that? Hopefully that'll do a bit better. So if we go through the meeting on the 1st of September, good. If we go through the meeting on the 1st of September, page by page, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, and page 10. Okay, I'm seeing no indications. Do we proposer and seconder?
Happy to propose, Chairman, Councillor Thompson.
Okay,
Second, Councillor Blake.
Okay, anyone who wishes to vote against that, please indicate now. No. Okay, that's the first one sorted out. We move now to item 3, to confirm and sign the minutes of the special council meeting held on the 14th of September, which is paper B. We go through those page by page. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5. Councillor Coffey.
Sure, yeah, I take it we're only going through them at this stage for accuracy, because you've moved on to the next point, and it doesn't have it's for consideration and accuracy in the minutes, you say so.
Yeah, accuracy. Yep. Yeah, it's for accuracy. You happy enough?
That's fine, thank you.
Yeah, okay. So page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, and page 10. And do we have a proposer and seconder for?
I'll propose, Chair, Victor.
Okay, I've got indication here from Councillor Robinson. No, hand down. Okay, and what's the second? Councillor Robinson.
Councillor Armstrong, happy to second.
Okay, no, that's grand. Okay, Councillor Armstrong. So now if we move to item 4 to confirm and sign the minutes of the council meeting held on the 21st of September, which is paper C. Go through it page by page. Donal, your hand's still up, by the way. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, Councillor Wilson.
I have something to say.
Yeah, I know. Councillor Wilson, go on. Bert, can't hear you at the minute. Bert, I can't hear you at the minute. I don't know if anyone else can. No, nobody from IT is saying. Try.
I'll jump on, Chris. I'll jump on his machine just to see if he's muted.
Okay, I don't think he is. I don't think he is because I can see his wee icon there. Sort of reluctant to move on in case there is something.
I unmuted Bert there now if he wants to try and speak.
Bert, try and speak now, perhaps. No.
If you want to move on, I can give him a ring.
Well, it's sort of difficult to move on if there's something there. I think we have to. Well, you're recorded as not being at the meeting, which is the only thing. I think we have to move on, unfortunately. But I can't hear you. So if we move on, if we can get you back, we can maybe slip back. So page 4, page 5, page 6, and page 7 and page 8. And we'll give Bert one last attempt here at coming in. No, I can't hear a thing. So I think we have to move on. Do we have a proposer and seconder for
Propose, Chris.
Okay.
Second, Councillor Blake.
Okay, we got a proposer and seconder. Does anyone wish to vote against? Please indicate now. But your hand's still up. I'm gonna assume that's just from before, but it's difficult to kind of know. But if you take your hand down and then put it, if you wanna vote against it, put your hand back up, and that can be recorded. If not, no, I think we're gonna have to take that as passed then. If we take that as passed, and we move now. No, if we take that on to item 5, which is declarations of interest. Declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? I have two. Which are Councillor Baird.
Thank you, Chair. Item 18.8, Director of ICBAN. I'll not withdraw, but I'll not take part in the process. Thank you.
Okay. I have two. I have 1821 as a member of the RBL, Roberts Legion, and 1531 as an employee of Ulster University. So do we have any other declarations of interest? Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, 18 as well. ICBAN.
Okay. Any further declarations of interest?
Chairman?
Yep. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah. Like yourself, 1821 as a member of the Royal British Legion.
Okay. Councillor Robinson.
18 ICBAN.
should be spent supporting.
Councillor Wilson.
Hello.
Yeah, Bert. Yeah.
Sorry, Chris. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah. Well, really, what I did want to say was that I don't believe, and I wouldn't support spending from on ratepayers' money supporting Derry City and Van District Council. I believe this is not what ratepayers in Omaha and from on Omaha pay their rates for, and I would be totally against that. And I want that registered, please.
Well, in fairness, that's Matters Horizon. So I think you can come back to that one whenever it comes to Matters Horizon, and we'll bring you in at that stage, and hopefully there won't be the same difficulty with IT. Now, where are we at now? Those who have already declared an interest, can you take your hands down? Councillor Rainey.
RBL, Chairman.
Okay. Councillor Irvine.
1821 RBL, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Campbell.
Yes, Chairman. 1531, working on a Ulster University HE program.
Yep. Okay.
Chris.
Yep.
Item 18.1, the Presbyterian Church. Item 4.4, the Grandfields panel. Item 6, the 26th of May planning meeting. Thank you.
Okay, and probably no, that's okay. Those are all noted. 1, 2, 3. I've got hands up here from Councillor Baird, Thompson, and Campbell. I'm assuming those are all sorted out. Councillor Baird. No, double hands. Okay, I think that's all declarations of interest. Come on, Councillor O'Reilly.
14.1, just raising it as an interest, but I'll not be leaving.
Okay. Okay. So is that all declarations of interest now? It looks like it. So we shall move on now to item 6 to confirm the minutes of the planning committee held on the 26th of May 2020. Okay, I am told that the only two members who can actually only propose this are Councillors Garrity and Thompson.
Happy to propose, Chairman, Councillor Thompson.
Well, we haven't gone through. Just if we go through page 1 and page 2, Councillor Thompson, are you happy to propose?
Yeah, happy to propose, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Garrity, are you happy to second?
Yeah, Chair. Yeah.
Okay, that's. Anyone else wish to object? Please indicate now. Nope. Okay, passed. Item 7 to consider a report of the Environmental Services Committee held on the 2nd of September, paper E. We go through it page by page. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, and page 13. Do we have a proposer and seconder?
Proposed, Chair, Councillor Phillips.
Okay. Seconded by?
Second that, Bernice.
Okay, we'll take that as Bernice. And any objections? No, Councillor Clark, you've raised your hand. Is that just a second, or is that to speak on this?
Chair, it's more than declaring interest in the Tullyvar commentary, but I missed it earlier on, so Tullyvar is a declared interest.
We can record that retrospectively. That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
Grant. So we got proposed and seconded. Anyone wish to object? Please indicate now. Okay, Councillor Clark, just remember to take your hand down. Thank you. Item 8, to consider the report of the RNC committee held on the 8th of September, which is paper F. Go through it page by page. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, and page 13. Anyone wish to propose?
Propose Councillor Maguire.
Oh,
Councillor McCaffrey.
Yep, gotcha. Councillor McCaffrey seconds it. And anyone wish to object, please indicate now. Councillor Robinson, you've raised your hand. Is that just to propose and second, or is that to... No, good. Okay. Anyone wish to object, please indicate now. Okay, I'm taking that as passed. Sean, just you're hitting your buttons quite, Sean Clark, so
Yeah. Yeah, it's just declaring I'm just getting 4-1.
That can be also recorded respectively. Don't worry about that. So
Okay, sorry about this. I'm only picking them up now. So
no, it's
okay.
It's grand. Okay, so if we now move now to the report of the Policy and Resources Committee, held on 9th of September, which is paper G, page by page. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, and page 12.
Proposed, Chairman.
Okay, and wish to second?
Second, Councillor Donnelly.
Okay, proposed and seconded. Anyone wish to object? Nope. Okay, taking that as passed as well. And item 10, to confirm the minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 16th of September, paper H. Go through it page by page. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Okay, do we have anyone who wishes to propose?
Councillor
I think Councillor Robinson was just ahead of that one. So proposed and seconded. Anyone wish to object, please indicate now. Okay, taking that as passed. Okay, so now we have item 11 to receive a nomination from the DUP for the position vacated by Councillor Coffey on the Policing and Community Safety Partnership. We have an indication from Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And on behalf of the Democratic Unionist Party, I wish to nominate Councillor Deborah Erskine to be a member of Fermanagh and Omaha Policing and Community Safety Partnership for the remainder of the term. Thank you.
Okay, as this is a position of responsibility, Councillor Erskine must accept. I'm sort of hoping.
Yes, Chair, happy to accept. Thank you.
Okay. Alison, I think there's a few more issues that
thank you,
want to raise.
Yep, thank you, Chair. We've also been notified of a number of changes from Sinn Féin in relation to a variety of working groups. So I'll just advise the members of this chair, but these will take effect immediately. On the broadband working group, Councillor McCaffrey will replace Councillor Catherine Kelly and Councillor Feely will replace Councillor Curry. On the Community Planning Strategic Partnership Board, Councillor McElduff will replace Councillor Catherine Kelly. On the Event Strategy Working Group, Councillor Sean Donnelly will replace Councillor Catherine Kelly. On the Mid-Ulster Cross-Border Planning Forum, Councillor Sean Donnelly will replace Councillor Catherine Kelly. On the Arts Forum, Councillor McElduff will replace Councillor Curry. On the Health and Social Care Services Group, Councillor Maguire will replace Councillor Curry. And on Community Advice for Mana, Councillor Maguire will replace Councillor Curry. We do have another series of nominations here to take at the Policy and Resources Committee. We'll provide an update on the other groups from which Councillor Coffey has resigned.
Okay, I've got an indication here from Councillor McElduff.
Yeah, just if that requires a proposal to effect those changes.
Yeah.
On the Sinn Féin side, I want to propose those 8 changes, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, and do you have a second?
Second, Chair, Stephen McCann here.
Okay, are we all in agreement? We don't need to be, but proposed and seconded and adopted. Okay, so if we now move to item 12, to consider the delegation of council powers to the following committees, and they're all listed in the report. Councillor Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. I'd requested from Alison earlier on a copy of, on the final point there, on the report on proposals for financial support from the Department for Communities. What proposals, because I don't understand why this is being considered as for council powers, so that there's no oversight as usual. I think we need to have some insight on all these issues, just why I understand there may be time constraints, but in particular on this one here, is there any details of what are these proposals from the department? Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I'll perhaps ask John as Director of Community Health and Leisure just to comment, but in relation to the point about oversight, we obviously have full member committees, so all members will have access to the information. The only reasons why we seek council powers are for deadlines of decisions, and my understanding is the department have required a response prior to the formal council ratification of the committee minutes in November, but John might be in a position to provide some further detail, Chair.
John. I'm not hearing him either. John, are you still muted?
Well, Chair, maybe what I would say in relation to Councillor Coffey's query, the full reports and correspondence will be available on Thursday. They will be uploaded as normal, so members will have a chance to consider in advance of the committee, and obviously we can deal with any queries at the meeting.
Okay. Donald,
yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm obviously, I understand where there's a need for timeliness and so on, but my concern really is that we will only have potentially 5 days notice of these paperworks. We won't have any opportunity as a council to reconsider our response in the fullness of time. So it's just in these sort of matters, if it is possible perhaps to send them on ahead of the very final deadline for submission, which is 5 days ahead, which tends to become the deadline, if you get me, for the receipt of them, as that would certainly enable us to have a very good consideration of all matters around it. So if that could be done in the future, Chair, thank you.
I'm not entirely sure that can be done, but I'm going to let other ones in now. So we've got, I'm assuming, Councillor Thompson, your hand is up, but is that up from previous?
Chairman, I was happy enough to propose that the delegation of council powers to RNC to deal with those items.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just I'm working group on wind farms between the Legacy, Omaha and Strabane district councils, and given that I suppose parts of the new FODC council area are classified as being saturated with wind farms and turbines for which proposals are still being submitted and accepted, I would actually propose off the back of this consideration, which includes consultation on 3 separate wind farm developments, that we actually look at setting up a new group to deal with this issue within our council area. I think it should be separate from and not include any members of the planning committee, so as to avoid any potential conflict of interest there. And it should, in order to reflect the new makeup of the council, should include councillors who are interested from all parties, and indeed each of the independents as they so wish. So I suppose initially this proposal is specifically aimed for our council area, the Fermanagh and Omagh district area, but I suppose as we meet with other councils and as we develop or evolve, we may need to involve them. But my proposal would be that we look to re-establishing or setting up a group that deals specifically with the issue of wind turbines and wind farms within our district. So I'd just like to make that as a proposal off the back of this, Chair. Thank you.
Alison.
Chair, certainly if Councillor McAleer was content, as members know, we are reviewing all of our working groups. There is a requirement in the context of planning, but not including members of the respective planning committees, to establish what are known as cross-border forums that within cross-council borders that would deal with areas of mutual interest. And for example, we have one in place place with Mid-Ulster, and wind is one of the areas for consideration. So perhaps if we could take it in the context of the overall review of working groups and to see where it would best fit. Certainly, I understand the sentiment that's being expressed, but just to see how that would actually fit into the overall arrangements.
Councillor McAleer, are you content with that?
Is that now? Sorry, is that a commitment that this will be one of the groups? Because I think it is important that this is included. And even this week, I've been receiving representations in my own DA where turbines are being erected at a place that we already thought was at saturation point. So I think the timeliness and the urgency of this has to be a matter for concern as well.
No, I think what it's a commitment to, Chair, that would certainly be factored in as a priority area. There are a number of similar groups that members have asked to be considered, and that we're trying to get that review completed to come to you in a timely fashion. So it's not to suggest we won't be doing it, but I'd like to look at it in the overall spread of working groups. I think we've about 74 at the moment.
Emmett, you happy enough with that, or?
I appreciate what the chief executive is saying, but I think given the seriousness and given the urgency of this matter, and given the fact that I think it was 2017 the report came back to say that we were at saturation point, I think this needs to be addressed. So I would like to proceed with the proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask if you wanted to respond. We've got a couple more indications. Okay. Just, do you want to wait till?
I'll take the other. Yeah.
Councillor Coffey.
Well, obviously, I think it's very important that we do take these matters very seriously, and I understand that there's communities feeling besieged. So, given the seriousness of it, I'm more than happy to second the proposal there. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chair. I made a proposal, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago in around a rural inequalities working group, and it didn't progress overhead of it was being looked at in workings of taking a look at all the other working groups and coming to some kind of a working agenda on them that wasn't going to be too many, but I felt it was an extremely important one because I feel rural issues are and rural people are being discriminated against by a large number of organisations, and as I actually do fully agree with our Councillor McAleer's proposal in around the wind farms, but I don't think it's any more important than the issue that I raised, and that was the way we were put back to deal with. Now, this re-looking at the working groups, I thought was going to happen fairly quickly, and if it is going to happen fairly quickly, I thought it should have happened by now, but. It's just to point that out. You know, I agree with Councillor McAleer, but I know mine was ended up being put back. So I'm not against what he's proposing, but at the same time, there's no hierarchy of things, and that is the way it had been done previously. And I think this working or that around the working groups need to be done. In fact, I wanted it being made a subcommittee. So I think that body of work needs to be done ASAP. But as I say, I'm not against Emmett's proposal.
We have a lot of indications now. Do you want to? Yeah, go on ahead. Yeah.
Here, just in terms of the timescale, certainly my intention would be we would have the initial findings of the review to share with group leaders at their meeting. I think it's the 23rd of October, and that would allow for consideration then at policy and resources in November. NOGA are undertaking some facilitation work with elected members, and I know we're liaising just with their chief executive around diary availability. So obviously we will work with members' discretion and decision. What I would say, Chair, in relation to the wind farms specifically, and I think it's something that we do need to clarify perhaps in the context of the overall formation of such a group. As Councillor McAleer indicates there was a group established in the Legacy, Strabane and Omagh district councils for a very specific purpose, which was actually around wind farm benefits. And that was the sole role that the group had. We are now the planning authority, so I'm not actually clear what the role and remit of this proposed working group is to be, because the council's planning position and policy will be actually articulated in our local development plan. So I think further work is required as to what the purpose of the group is. I know suggested membership has been identified there, but again, normally what we would do is a terms of reference would be drafted. That would be then brought to the council for consideration, and you could proceed to populate it accordingly. So my view would remain that it should be part of the wider review of working groups, and certainly to include it within the time frame that's already been identified.
Okay. Those who've already spoken, can you please take your hands down? I think the next one to speak is Councillor Thompson, unless you've already spoken on this one. I don't think you have.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I know people will have very, very strong views on a lot of these matters, and we've heard Councillor McAleer express them on many occasions. But we are in the middle of a comprehensive review of all the working groups, taking on board what our Chief Executive has said. As a party, we will be supporting the comprehensive review of all working groups at the one time. So I'm happy enough to leave it as it is and in Alison's hands. And we'll hear the group leaders, and then we'll be brought forward to Policy and Resources in November 2020. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'm going to take that as a proposal as well. Next I have Councillor Feely.
Thanks, Chair. No, I was just coming in same Seamus there, because I think I second Seamus' proposal that night to get that rule one sorted out. So that's all I want to say about it. I should just up your hand down there, sorry.
No, don't worry. Thanks very much, Councillor Feely. Councillor Maguire.
Gurmai Agada Carly is just for some clarification there in Councillor McAleer's proposal. He was expressing that the planning committee should not be, but he was making some references as to who should be included. Just for clarification through the chair to the chief executive, I do believe that we use the hunt process when we're nominating working groups also, if you could clarify that. I am aware some communications through the council lately have indicated where independents have access to positions that only a single rep from the larger parties are meeting. So I just need to ensure that the hunt process is, and again, reflecting the democratic will of the people in the area.
Okay, Alison.
Yes, Chair, generally the approach on working groups has been that we would nominate, or sorry, the representation would be in accordance with the hunt. So that would be worked out and then shared. The council on some occasions has then gone beyond that and increased representation as well on a variety of groups. But that would be the basis.
Okay, I hope that clarifies things, Councillor Maguire. Councillor Curry.
Yeah, go on,
Gurmagada Caherly, yes, I was coming in a similar vein, but if it needs a seconder, I would like to second Councillor Thompson's proposal there. There is an extensive review going on at the minute, and we all, have strong feelings. These are important issues, and including the issues that Councillor McAleer's highlighting there. But this review is going on at the minute, so if we all start just waiting until the council meeting, we could be here for weeks discussing this. There's a process going on. We're all feeding into it. There are ways to feed into it besides doing it just at the council meeting. So I would second that proposal that we're happy to wait till we see how the restructuring is and look at the groups then. And I do think this is an important thing to be looked at, but it may be the case that it can be considered along with other things as well, or maybe not, but that's part of the process.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Curry. Finally, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Chair. Two things that I'd like to say here. First of all, I think that we are being bogged down by process, and I direct this at Alison and the senior management team of the council. I believe that we have become a council of process instead of action. And while I appreciate that there is a need to take time to work out various strategies and so forth, and I make reference to the tourism strategy, which is not yet out, I feel that we are taking far too long to process actions and to be able to enact those decisions and to be able to move on with the business that we're supposed to be and mandated to carry out. I want to propose that we see what exactly the timeline is and the stages within that timeline and agree those timelines to any future processes that we as a council are getting involved in as members. The second thing, Chair, that I want to say is that I want to propose that this does not go to the group leaders meeting. I see absolutely no reason why, as a committee, we cannot decide on these sort of things instead of far too much going to group leaders, which is not constituted to be part of the council structure in decision making. And I think that we need to stop feeding things through into group leaders. I was part of the setup of that. It was never designed to do that. And I think it's very poor business when so much has been fed through the group leaders instead of coming to the accountable committees that it should be, in my view. And I want to propose both of those things, Chair.
Well, I'm going to take those as two separate proposals, if that's all right with you. They're not seconded at the minute, but we'll take them as two separate, if that's all right. I have no more indications, including no seconder for those.
Chair, if I can second Councillor Riley's proposal regarding the group leaders not being a suitable forum for certain types of business. Thank you, Chair.
Do you want to second to both of them there, just for...
Happy to second both of them, yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Alison, do you wish to?
Chair, maybe just on a point of clarity, and I appreciate if members wish to consider this at another forum, we can. I suppose just to clarify, there is no decision making, as has been highlighted previously at group leaders. It was, as I understand it, a vehicle by which matters would be brought to allow members to consult with their wider parties. From an officer perspective, certainly we are facilitating that because it has been something that members have thought useful. If the view is that that doesn't need to happen, and if business shouldn't be going that way, it's a very easy matter for that to be stood down. But just to clarify, what I had said was in the first instance to group leaders to November P&R, there was no suggestion of decision making at the group leaders point. So we're quite happy for that structure to be stood down if that is deemed to be the way forward.
Councillor O'Reilly, I'm going to let you in now because I think that's probably in response to that.
Cheers, thank you. And I am more than aware that there's no decision making, nor hopefully did I imply that there was a decision making at the group leaders. I believe that the essence of what the group leaders was set up was not to take lots of different types of business that could easily come through on a committee. This was very much where there was maybe contentious items that needed to get an understanding of where the parties and independents were on those contentious items, instead of bringing them to a committee and having them very, very much opposing views all over the place before anybody had an opportunity to reflect on those different issues. Issues that are not contentious or not needing that degree of time to reflect on through the different parties was never designed to go to the group leaders. And while I believe it has a role to play, I believe and have said on a number of occasions that too much business is being diverted through to the group leaders instead of coming to the relevant committees.
Okay. So your proposal at the minute is just that this individual item is reported back to P&R rather than 3 group leaders. That's
Yes,
all I have
Chair,
at the minute. Okay.
yes.
And the second one.
But that note is taken that too much business is going through that could ordinarily go to committees. That's the big point that I'm trying to get across here, Chair.
I think those points are noted. So I'm going to take the proposals in the order that they were proposed. Well, I'm going to take them. I have Councillor Thompson and Councillor Curry's is the first proposed and seconded. Oh yeah, okay. Councillor McAleer, seconded by Councillor Coffey.
Chair, could I very briefly come in on?
I mean, it's going to have to be brief because it's going to a vote. Like there's
yeah,
clear
it's just prior to the vote and for clarity that just in response to a couple of issues that were raised, Councillor Maguire stated about the DeHunt system worked fine when there were 4 parties, and that was what you were dealing with. The fact that there are more than 4 parties now, that there are independents here, it's an outdated system. It doesn't work, and it's not representative or democratic, unfortunately. So we need to look at something that actually represents the entire spectrum of our council, and that should include independents and members of smaller parties. The second thing was just in response to the chief executive. This working group would in essence be something that met with the communities involved in terms of where these planned turbines are to be located, because I think that community involvement aspect is something that really isn't fully considered or fully realised at present. So that's the thinking behind this group. And that would be sort of why I'm making the proposal to proceed with it. Thank you, Chair.
So you are proceeding with it. I'm going to take the 2 as mutually exclusive because I think they are. You can't sort of ride 2 horses in that one. So Councillor McAleer and Councillor Coffey's proposal is mutually exclusive to then there was a ding there. Is that Councillor Maguire? I mean, I'm just going to take this to a vote, Councillor Maguire, because I think it's probably around the DeHunt stuff. Is that
question, Chair?
Go on ahead then.
A question again through yourself to the Chief Executive. Are we still using the DeHunt system in this council?
Yes, Chair, and not only in this council, it is actually the default system across local government in Northern Ireland, and it is a system that works across all parties and across all independents. So it's a process, as members will be aware, based on representation, and it is, as I understand it, the council itself has decided to proceed to implement the system as it is in Stormont and many other local authorities as well, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chief Executive, for that clarification. Tail wagging the dog comes to mind. I'm sure every other councillor in the chamber is aware that the DeHunt system is the one used by the councils. Thank you very much for that clarification.
But just to clarify, Chief Executive, it is up to the council to decide the membership. You're not bound by DeHunt.
Well, Chair, the council has adopted DeHunt as its mechanism in relation to the various nominations and compositions of groups. And what has happened then, we'd be bringing terms of reference, membership and so on through. The council considers those normally at their annual meeting. Or if a situation arises where representation is required to change or a new group is established in advance of the AGM, it's dealt with at the relevant meeting.
Okay.
Sorry, no, that's not the case.
No,
that's
I mean,
factually not the case, Chair. Apologies.
No, hold on a second. I can't be having that. You'll come in the same way as everybody else. Councillor Feely, thank you for waiting.
Sorry, Chris, I should have my hand down. Sorry.
Okay, Councillor Baird.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. A council there stated that DeHunt was undemocratic. Well, I think Alison subsequently clarified that it is. I mean, it's the extent the fallback system that is used, and all parties agree. Just because the cards were dealt slightly differently at the last election doesn't make any difference. DeHunt, by its nature, works on strength, and independents are just that, single units, sole traders. I'll leave it at that, Chair.
Okay, well, look, I think everyone's views are very clear on this, so I'm going to push this to a vote. This is, as I say, I'm taking Councillor Michael Lear's proposal as exclusive to Councillor Thompson's, and I'm going to put Councillor Michael Lear's proposal to a vote. Anyone who, are we going to roll? I'm sensing division in the chamber, so I think if we do a roll call, would probably be the most efficient way to get this over the line. Chief Executive, you get. Okay, tear away.
Okay, Chair. So Councillor McAleer's proposal, Councillor Armstrong.
Against.
Councillor Baird.
Against.
Councillor Blake.
Against.
Councillor Buchanan.
Against.
Councillor Campbell.
Against.
Councillor Clark.
He's put his hand up. Councillor Clark, you don't need to put your hand up, you just need on mic.
Against.
Councillor Coyle.
Against.
Councillor Curry.
Against.
Councillor Deehan.
Against.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Against.
Councillor Sean Donnelly.
Against.
With an apology from Councillor Stephen Donnelly. Councillor Elliott.
Against.
Councillor Erskine.
Against.
Councillor Feely.
Against.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Nay, against.
Councillor Gannon.
Against.
Councillor Garrity.
Against.
Councillor Green.
Could I have just clarification, Chief Executive, before I vote on this? I presume this is not against the proposal, but is against the proposal now that it would go to the working group review. Yeah.
Yes, Chair, that it would be considered in the context of the working group review.
Okay. Yeah. Against.
Councillor Irvine.
Against.
An apology from Councillor Keenan. Councillor Catherine Kelly.
Against.
Councillor Podregeen Kelly.
Against.
Councillor Maguire.
And I against.
Councillor McAleer.
For.
Councillor McCaffrey.
Aye. Against.
Councillor McCann.
Against.
Councillor McCloughery.
Against.
Councillor McElduff.
And I against.
Councillor McPhillips.
Against.
Councillor O'Coffey.
For.
Councillor O'Reilly.
Against.
Councillor Rainey.
Against.
Councillor Robinson.
Against.
Councillor Smith.
Against.
Councillor Swift.
Against.
Councillor Thompson.
Against.
Councillor Thornton.
Against.
Councillor Warrington.
Against.
And Councillor Wilson.
Against.
That's defeated, Chair.
Okay. Because that's your current trajectory, do you need to go through the second proposal? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Councillor.
Yeah. Okay.
Curry's
Well, we'll go. Okay. So if we take Councillor Thompson's proposal, seconded by Councillor Curry, I'm going to suggest there's also going to be division in that one. So if we go through it again,
verbally, Chair.
Well, I don't know how you would ever do it verbally. To be honest, you could spend longer doing it verbally than just going through it by name by name.
Okay, Chair. So Councillor Thompson's proposal, seconded by Councillor Curry. Councillor Armstrong.
For.
Councillor Baird.
Councillor Baird.
Sorry, Chair, could you restate the actual proposal?
Proposal is to continue along the same path and allow the working groups to be.
Sorry, Chair, it was to proceed, complete the review of the working groups and report to the November Policy and Resources Committee.
There you go. Okay.
Councillor Baird.
For.
Councillor Blake.
For.
Councillor Buchanan.
For.
Councillor Campbell.
For.
Councillor Clark.
For.
Councillor Coyle.
For.
Councillor Curry.
Lahey, for.
Councillor Deehan.
For.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Sean Donnelly.
For.
An apology from Councillor Stephen Donnelly. Councillor Elliott.
For.
Councillor Erskine,
4.
Councillor Feely,
4.
Councillor Fitzgerald,
4.
Councillor Gannon,
4.
Councillor Garrity, Councillor Garrity,
4. Sorry, Alison, 4.
Councillor Green,
4.
Councillor Irvine,
4.
Councillor Keenan, apologies, sorry. Councillor Catherine Kelly,
4.
Councillor Padraigeen Kelly,
4.
Councillor Maguire,
Evaver 4.
Councillor McAleer, Councillor McAleer,
4.
Councillor McCaffrey,
4.
Councillor McCann,
4.
Councillor McCloughery,
4.
Councillor McAvoy,
Evaver, 4.
Councillor McPhillips,
4.
Councillor O'Coffey,
I'm definitely for this.
Councillor O'Reilly,
4.
Councillor Rainey,
4.
Councillor Robinson,
4.
Councillor Smith,
4.
Councillor Swift,
4.
Councillor Thompson,
4.
Councillor Thornton,
4.
Councillor Warrington,
4.
and Councillor Wilson.
4.
That's carried, Chair.
Okay, so that's carried. We now move to Councillor O'Reilly's proposal, which is seconded by Councillor Michael Duff, which relates to you reporting back a timeline, and that this should not be reported back to group leaders, but be reported back to Policy and Resources. Is that?
Chair, I think the policy and resources is reflected in the earlier proposal, but yes, that it doesn't go to group leaders in the first instance.
Okay. Anyone who wishes to vote against this, please indicate now. Okay, in the absence of any indications, I'm going to take that as carried unanimously. Now we actually have to get back Councillor Padraigeen Kelly.
Sorry, Chair, can I just come in and say that that was a complete waste of time, considering the fact that it actually carried anyway. Surely there's a point of order that if the first one falls, then the second one, which is contrary to, would carry.
There is not.
Any time when we're not getting business done, that's just a complete waste of time in my view.
Your comments are noted. I can't tell how people are going to vote before they vote. Right. If we have to take that, so now we have to move to the actual delegation of.
No, we have that, Chair. It's just Councillor Thompson proposed that. We need a seconder.
Okay, seconder for the delegation of council powers.
Second, Chair. Councillor Buchanan.
Okay, Councillor Buchanan. All in agreement? Or anyone who's not in agreement, please indicate now. Okay, I'm going to take it as passed as well, so those powers are delegated.
And just policy and resources then, please, Chair, just one item.
So if we delegate those powers to policy and resources,
Proposed chair.
Councillor Warrington, and who was
Councillor Thompson.
Okay, Councillor Warrington, Councillor Thompson. Anyone who wishes to indicate, anyone who wishes to vote against this, please indicate now. There's 2 hands up at the minute, but I'm assuming they're in error. Councillor Baird and Councillor Kelly. Councillor Kelly, do you want to be recorded as voting against this? No. Right, I'm taking that as, I think I can take that as carried then. We move now to item 13. Matters arising from the council. Matters arising from the council meeting on the 20th of July. No, that's us here. Page 6, yeah. Okay, starting at page 5. So if we go through it page by page, starting at page 5.
Yep. And Chair, just to advise members, we've received correspondence from the Department of Education regarding the Eat Well, Live Well programme, and that was attached with your papers.
Okay, Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. Happy to propose happy to propose to note this piece of correspondence. But I reading this correspondence, and events in schools across the district where pupils have had to isolate recently, and it's happening in loads of schools, got me thinking about free school meals and the programmes that this particular correspondence mentions. Pupils in primary school, secondary level who receive free school meals have had to isolate, and when these pupils are at home, there's been no provision for them. So these pupils are at risk of food poverty, as they were previously during lockdown and over the summer, as has already been well noted by this council. Hence why they receive free school meals in the first place. So obviously at the home there's been no provision made. So I would like to propose that we write to the Minister of the Communities, Education Minister, to ask that families would receive direct payments for any time their child has been absent due to COVID-related reasons. Quite often, pupils have to be off for 2 weeks. That leaves them for 2 weeks without the support and the safety net that is free school meals at this time. And it isn't the fault of the pupils or the families. It's just health precautions. And families shouldn't be made to carry the burden of that either. I think it's appropriate to praise the previous actions taken during lockdown and over summer by the relevant ministers. And we're going to ask, and I think we should ask, that they continue in this vein. As said, it isn't the fault of the student or families, and we must always put the welfare of children first and ensure that no child goes hungry, and we must do our best to tackle the issues of food poverty in this council district, as we have spoke about many times the previous months. And I would hope that the ministers would be consistent. Obviously, there may be difficulties with getting it set up, but it isn't unsurmountable, Chair. So my proposal is that we write to the relevant ministers that I have mentioned to ask that families that would receive direct payments for any time that their children have been off for COVID-related reasons in regards to free school meals. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's a proposal. Next on the list, Councillor Kelly, your hand's still up from before. I'm going to assume that's up an hour. Councillor Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. I'm actually just wanting to make a proposal. It's very similar to Councillor Gannon, so I would just ask if Councillor Gannon would change his proposal to include the following. I think it's also necessary to write in regard to this exact programme. This Eat Well, Live Well scheme had an upper limit set of 3,100 applicants. It ran out of room very quickly and had to be stopped. As a result, there is now no provision for those in severe disadvantage, suffering from vulnerabilities at this time. And I would like to see what additional provision is actually given for those for whom this scheme was actually instituted to start off with. So that's a slight revision to Councillor Gannon's proposal. I also would like to make another addition to it, which is to extend it to include a request to the Education Minister for comprehensive guidance to be issued to all schools on the handling of the response to COVID. Because at the moment, there is no overarching and comprehensive policy guidelines in relation to schools. And this is causing a lot of problems, as Councillor Gannon will no doubt know better than me as a teacher. But it is meaning that some schools are dealing with this in entirely different ways to others. This is resulting in severe anxiety and fears around infections and so on. And I'm aware of a school in our council area where there's children fearful of going to school as a result of children being almost encouraged to go in with symptoms. And this is happening in this council area at the moment. So I would like to propose those additions to Councillor Gannon's motion proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, well, it's up to Councillor Gannon to accept those or not.
Thank you, Chair. Happy to accept those two additions. They're good points raised by Councillor Coffey, and he is right that the guidance is more than a bit fuzzy. There's lots of words, but very little direct guidance for schools at the minute. Lots of coulds rather than what should be done. Thank you, Chair.
I'm going to take that just for the helps of the minutes, so that you're seconding his and he's seconding yours. Is that?
I think Chair Councillor O'Coffey's suggestions have been incorporated by Councillor Gannon, so he will second Councillor Gannon's proposal.
Oh, that'll do as well.
If Councillor Gannon's content.
Yeah, that'll do. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to speak very briefly on support of the previous proposals, and just to, as Councillor O'Coffey said, I am similarly aware of at least one school in our district area where pupils have tested positive for COVID, or a pupil has tested positive for COVID. Messages went out to people who are deemed as close contacts to self-isolate for the recommended 14 days as recommended by the Public Health Agency. And subsequent to that, the students are then being encouraged in a much less period of time. And I'm actually, the most recent one was, I heard 1 day. They were isolating for 1 day, and then they were being contacted by the school and advised that if they're not showing symptoms or they don't have a temperature, to come back into school. And this is completely at odds with the advice, the public health advice, regardless of whether you're showing symptoms. And even if you test negative, you're still supposed to self-isolate for those 14 days. And it shouldn't just be school children that this is applying to. Obviously, people are employment, they need to inform their employer and stay off work for that period too. Hopefully they're not being disadvantaged by employers, but just really to lend support to that, and maybe to, I don't know if we can further to the guidance that we get from the Department for Education, we can update our local schools, because obviously this is something that's massively impacting on students. They're missing out health-wise, they're missing out, or they're taking a risk by going into school. Obviously their education's being impacted if they're staying at home. So it's trying to get that balance right for the vulnerable people in our area, and to relieve them of that stress and that anxiety that they're surely feeling at this time. Thank you, Chair.
I don't think we can really disseminate the information on behalf of EA. I think that's their responsibility. Councillor Michael Duff. He's still muted, yeah. Sorry, you're still muted there. Yep, there you go.
Can I do that now, Chair? Make a proposal to write to the Public Health Agency requesting a mobile testing unit, COVID-19, for Omaha. I want to do that in the course of these matters arising. Can I do it now, or do you want me to take it later?
I think we can take it now, to be honest.
Okay.
Rather than coming back to it.
Right, Chair, can I make a proposal that this council write to the Department of Health and Public Health Agency to locate a mobile COVID-19 testing unit in Omaha without delay? And if I could just take 2 minutes to elaborate why. Some councillors have referred to evidence of a surge in our local area at this time. I'm minded that Enniskillen has, a testing centre in place, permanently, which is a good thing. But my question is simple and clear. Why can a mobile testing unit not be moved to Omaha to provide testing capacity in Omaha, where the rate of transmission is increasing daily and where there is currently a much higher rate than there was in March and May? I wrote in an individual capacity today to Dr. Breed Farrell, who is the Assistant Director of Service Development, Safety and Quality within the PHA, with responsibility for these mobile testing units. It's my understanding that our council, has provided information to the PHA as to suitable locations within Omaha. We had one in the month of May. It only lasted a week. I think it was in the grounds of the Tyrone Fermanagh Hospital, not the Omaha Hospital as detailed in the Department of Health correspondence. But I could say much more on it, but time mightn't allow it. We've had a bizarre situation where regionally some people have been offered tests in Scotland and England. I'm not sure if that has found its way into our area, our council area, those offers. But the PHA has repeatedly reminded us that testing is an essential part of the fight against coronavirus. And people are saying to me all weekend, all last week, why is Omaha being left behind? And I want to propose, Chair, that we are not left behind and to write to the Department of Health and PHA at the highest level demanding a mobile testing unit for Omaha without delay. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, well, that is a very different proposal. So I'm just going to ask anyone who wishes to come in on the previous proposal to come in now, beforehand. So I mean, if you're coming in on Councillor Michael Duff, and I did see quite a few indications when you mentioned that, please take your hands down now, and I'll bring you in after we've sort of squared off Councillor Gannon's original proposal. So Councillor Feely. Yeah.
You hear me there, Chris? You hear me there?
There you go. Yep.
I was just coming in to second Barry's proposal.
Okay, well, to say, let's just try and keep it sort of one at a time. So I'll take that as a seconding. Let's just try and keep it to Councillor Gannon's original proposal. Councillor Deehan.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I do want to make a comment on.
Well, I'll bring you in again. Let's try and get them sort of sorted out one at a time.
Yes, well, it would be helpful, Chair, if you would stick to the agenda in the order in which it is presented to us. Anyway, in relation to the proposal to which you refer, I do think it is vitally important, and I want to support Councillor McAleer in his comments and the proposer, because there is a lot of confusion out there, and this confusion, particularly in schools, is causing increased risk within our community. So it's absolutely vital that we have this clarity as soon as possible, and I think we definitely do need further guidance, and that should be provided as speedily as possible. So I want to support Councillor Gannon's proposal, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Swift.
Yes, Gormagat, Cahirlock, and like that too, I will obviously be supporting the proposal. But as well, I want to highlight the importance of our fight against coronavirus. And I think we very much need to encourage the consideration of oneself and that of others, where we must be responsible for protecting lives and indeed, of course, the livelihoods as outlined in that Eat Well project. So all the responsibility rests with one and all, and we all have an impact and we all have a responsibility. So I'm actually rather concerned with the comments made whereby councillors are aware of people with symptoms still proceeding to attend school. That there just presents a serious risk to people that they may come in contact who are possibly and most likely vulnerable. So just supporting what everybody else has said, we certainly need the guidance and the clarification for the schools. But again, I think we all know enough to know what's risky and what is not, and to stick with the washing hands, keep the social distance and sanitize and all of that. So if somebody was to come to me, I would be discouraging them to be going out and about anywhere if they have symptoms. Margaret.
Okay, so I think that is all indications, with the exception of Councillor Kelly, who I still think is hands up from before. So if we now move to Councillor Michael Duff's proposal, which has been seconded. Councillor Deehan.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for affording me the opportunity to support this proposal by Councillor Michael Duff. In fact, you will recall, Chair, that these precise concerns were the reason that we wrote to Minister Swan in the first instance, our concerns regarding the lack of a permanent COVID testing centre in Omaha, which is, after all, the second largest centre of population outside Derry in the west of the province. We wrote to the Minister, and you see his reply. His reply did not address the need for a permanent COVID testing centre in Omaha. Councillor Duff is quite right in what he says, is that we are facing into a second surge. We now have the test and trace app, and in my view, testing remains the key to controlling COVID-19. We need to be able to test rapidly and locally. And for a place like Omaha with its population, we need a permanent COVID testing centre in Omaha. We did have a mobile one. At that time, the rates of infection were falling, but we now need a permanent COVID testing centre in Omaha for the reasons that have been outlined. The reply from Minister Swan is very disappointing. It does not address those very reasonable concerns which were raised, and I support Councillor McElduff that we should write back to Minister Swan, informing him that we really do require a permanent COVID testing centre in Omaha. So I support the proposal for those reasons, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was hoping to raise this under the next item, but Councillor Michael Duff, like the cute corner forward that he is, got on there before us. Yeah, there's obviously test centres in Enniskillen. You have test centre in Tyrone and Strabane, and also in Cookstown, but as we're well aware, they're different council areas, different districts, and they're both areas that actually have much higher rates or much higher instances of this virus than we currently do. So I think, as well as protecting ourselves, as Councillor Lehan has said, it's incumbent on us to have a local provision, and where better have that to avoid those unnecessary journeys for people, and also those people that in our rural area maybe don't have access to a car, to their own vehicle, or to public transport. I think it's a good suggestion, and I don't see how the department can refuse that. So fully supportive of it, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, I'm not going to waste any more time on it, but I want to support Councillor McAduff's proposal. And I know we have talked about this in the past, and as the county town of Tyrone, Omaha deserves at least a mobile testing centre. And I'll just leave the comments at that, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Thompson, and finally Councillor Coffey.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's just, again, I was going to raise this under 13.2.1. And I certainly would support the provision of these vital services in Omaha, considering the rising incidence in that town in particular. But I just want to highlight, in response to the correspondence received, that the Minister has indicated that Serco, the outsourced corporation, is responsible for this. They are failing right across the board. Last month, it was confirmed that of the 10,000 staff they had conducted an average of 2.4 contacts per person in the entire period. So the so-called testing and trace system that has been put into place by the Conservative government and obviously rolled out in Northern Ireland is completely inadequate. And it is resulting in a profound lockdown that could have been avoided if the measures had been taken when necessary, primarily by the Tory government in London. So I do certainly support the testing centre in Omaha, but I would have to say Serco have no part to play in a positive testing regime. These are tests that should be done under the NHS. The NHS is perfectly positioned to defend people at this time of crisis. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's all indications as I see them. If we take now the first proposal by Councillor Gannon, which brings into direct payments for those who are affected by COVID and guidance to schools. And if we have anyone who wishes to vote against that, please indicate now. Okay, so I'm going to take that as passed. And then the second proposal, which is by Councillor Duff, seconded by Councillor Feely, around a test centre in Omaha. If anyone wishes to vote against that, please indicate now. Okay, both those are passed unanimously. If we go now back to the paper, I think we're on page 5, page 6, page 7.
Yes, Chair, just on page 7, if I could refer members at this point to the letter received from the Department for the Economy. It's tab, Chair, at item 15.4, but it's actually in response to this item, and this is the Minister's response regarding the future policy on minerals, the Council's concerns around the stakeholder engagement, and also the discussion regarding the Crown estate. So the Minister deals with those in her response.
Okay, Councillor Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to raise this under 15.4, but if we're raising it here, that's fine. This response is totally inadequate. I would like to propose that we revert back to the Minister. This review into fracking has come against a wide and growing volume of medical and public health research, which confirms the link between fracking and adverse impact on community health, public health. And there's no need for this research for a start. I think we need to emphasize that to the Minister. But equally, I would like to ask the Minister, how is it that the geologists working for the Geological Survey of Northern Ireland and the Geological Survey of Britain and their equivalents in the Republic, who have open door relationships to the oil and gas industry, who have pasts working for the very companies who are potential beneficiaries, how is it that these agencies, which have such an obvious conflict of interest, can be the people who are bringing forward studies which will open the door potentially to the return of fracking in this area? So I'd like the Council to ask that question. I would also like to ask the question, how is it possible that applicants who are tax exiled in the likes of the British Virgin Islands, where they declare no tax and where there's no possibility of a robust investigation into their financial standing or their origins of what they're doing, how these can hold licenses to destroy our environment, to poison community relations, and to ride roughshod over the community? So I'd like this Council, I'd like to propose that we write that to the Minister. It's about time people in Stormont started to listen. We are not going to have fracking on our doorstep, and I hope that this Council will take a strong line on this. There's no two ways around that. Thank you.
Councillor McAleer.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Yeah, fully supportive of the comments of the previous speaker there. Again, we're left with more questions really than we get this sort of correspondence. I do not know how the Minister goes about dividing these different toxic industries, what her criteria for. She seemingly has little understanding of the extractive processes used when dealing with precious minerals and precious metals, that she compares them to quarrying and really seems to think that they're of no more threat when they couldn't be. That really couldn't be further from the truth. And I think if she had any comprehension or any understanding of it, or possibly maybe if it was happening closer to her own home, maybe she would be a wee bit more involved and a wee bit more aware of it. I would like to see the Council, as well as carrying out the actions proposed by Councillor Coffey, that we actually, on the Minister's advice, contact the Crown Estate, ask them what their policy, what their procedure is in terms of their interest in gold and silver in County Tyrone. And not only that, but given that the certain members of the Crown and the royal family, the English royal family, seem to be quite good at the giving the public face that they're interested in the environment, interested in biodiversity, interested in the well-being. Would they consider not progressing this interest, not progressing with further exploration, with further permitted development rights for the North? And I would actually formally propose that the council do make contact with the Crown Estate to follow up on that. We as a council have a corporate position, a formal position, where we are opposed to gold mining and where we are opposed to fracking. And I would like to see them both being progressed as industries, flip industries of the same coin. They have nothing to offer our local area. People are speaking out in greater and greater numbers that they don't want these toxic industries here. And I think that message, although it maybe hasn't got as far as the Department for Economy just yet, it will get there. I would also like to query, and maybe Councillor Coffey will allow this in a return correspondence to the Minister, just to query in terms of the recent announcement by the Department for Infrastructure and the proposal there to remove permitted development rights for oil and gas extraction. What need is there for the Department for the Economy's review into oil and gas extraction if there is already a call made by the Minister for the Infrastructure that this is something that is not going to be considered prior to planning application level, rather than wasting £75,000 or whatever the total cost may be? I think that money could be much spent better elsewhere, possibly by her party colleague setting up the promised independent environmental protection agency. It could go into health resources, education resources, infrastructure. So that would be a further proposal or further amendment I would like to make. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, well, we'll come back to Donal in time whenever, if to see if he's happy enough to incorporate those. Councillor Curry.
I'm not sure really what the whole proposals are there, but I think there's, well, as you know, on the agenda tonight, we have a motion, whether we get to it or not. We won't, certainly, with speeches at length going on. But it's to restate this council's position on fracking. And I think it's a bit hysterical, really, to be saying, you know, that this is a threat in the council and framing it in that way, because our council has done everything possible. And indeed, the Minister did make the changes to permitted development rights. That is to be welcomed. But we had already put that in place as a council. So I just think there's a bit of kind of scare tactics and maybe for a little bit of political gain here. I also think these issues are getting conflated. You know, they're both very, very important issues. Let them stand alone. Stop continuing to conflate them. There are two different, whether we like it or not, there are two different authorities dealing with these. And I think it is displaying a lack of understanding, trying to continuously throw them together. They're not the same thing. They need to be tackled in different ways. And I think it weakens actually the argument by continuing to do that. Gormagget.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Curry. Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. Yeah, well, as per usual, we seem to have digressed a wee bit, and I find that Councillor McAleer's comments are hypocritical to a degree on wasting 75,000 on the report that's been carried out by the Assembly at the minute. It's known that the Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, the Ulster Unionist group on that council, always opposed fracking, and we still very much do. There is nothing has changed since we said that fracking shouldn't happen within our community until somebody comes and says to us otherwise, that it's all safe, all singing, all dancing. We are opposed to it, and our party remains opposed to it. But I think, you know, we need to stay to the what we're dealing with here instead of digressing into other areas. We're talking about fracking, not mining, anything else. We're talking about fracking. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Feely.
Thank Chris. I'll be brief too. I wasn't going to come in there. I was hoping that we'd have a debate on this tonight, but it's looking like we're not going to get that far. as I totally agree on the Siobhan was saying. And as for writing to the Crown Estate, geez, I don't know about that now, but there you are.
Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Curry here. They're two separate issues, as is being demonstrated in the letter. Yes, they're both very important issues, and both need to be dealt with, of course. But they're two separate issues, and this is specific more to fracking, something that this council resolutely opposes. And obviously, as other councillors have mentioned it, I of course welcome the minister's actions on permitted development rights. It's another case of an SDLP minister taking action in regards to fracking. But Chair, I'll leave it at that to hopefully get us to the motion. I'll not make any more comments on that matter. Thank you.
Okay, I have a number of hands still up from individuals who've already spoken before. Okay, so Donald, I believe there was some kind of would you accept type thing from Councillor McAleer. Are you happy enough to accept the proposals? The changes
I must come back on a number of issues.
No, you mustn't.
There's a few complete misrepresentations as well. First of all,
no, I'm not having this because it's gonna bounce. Hold on. It's gonna bounce back and forth, and it'll never get done.
I will raise them at another juncture. Then these issues will keep there's other points in this meeting. I will raise these issues.
That's fine. But we've got to make it.
I'm happy with the amendments Councillor McAleer's made because at the end of the day, we cannot have the despoilation of one part of our council area and safeguard another one and think it's not somehow connected because it's all connected.
Okay, so you're happy enough to do that, Grant. Councillor McAleer, you've already spoken. I'm desperate to make a bit of progress here, so I think.
Sorry, Chair, there were a couple of direct allegations and accusations thrown my way. Can I get an opportunity?
No, because it'll literally there will be plenty other avenues.
Well, the one point very briefly I would say is this relates directly to minerals and petroleum. So for people that don't actually, maybe they haven't read the letter, it does relate to gold mining.
I think that's just the height of disrespect to the chair. I'm trying to run this meeting in some kind of order. So we have a proposal on the table. Does anyone wish to vote against it? Please indicate now.
Okay, Hurley, can you just clarify what the proposal is, because it rambled on there so long? I don't know.
I'm going to ask Alison to clarify it in a more concise way than I could.
Chair, Councillor O'Coffey's proposal was that we write to the Minister for the Economy, setting out the Council's concern regarding the inadequate level of the response. And then that was supplemented by Councillor McAleer highlighting the need also to query the removal of the permitted development rights by the Minister for the Department for Infrastructure, and to query what need there is for the review given the Minister's announcement and the associated spend of public funds. And then separately, Councillor O'Coffey raised a number of specific queries, which I don't have a full transcript of, Chair, because there were quite a number of them that we would pick up, but I think it was really around the inadequacy of the response in relation to the Council's concerns.
Okay, Councillor Coffey, I'm happy enough that the officers will be able to pick those up from transcripts. Councillor Curry, are you content that that clarifies things, or do you need Councillor Coffey to clarify the specifics?
Are the specifics included in the proposal, which at this stage, I have to say, is looking a lot like our motion? So is this the way we're tackling things now, where we're just riding over everything in the council?
I do see similarities. Councillor Coffey.
Yeah, well, the issues are in relation to the role. Oh, I'm okay. The issues are in relation to the role of the geological survey and the interactions, business and otherwise, with corporations. Many of those people have had roles within the industry, and indeed there's major link. Anyway, that's one issue. And the second one is the inadequacy of financial assessment procedures, which have allowed in the past companies who are based in tax havens such as the British Virgin Isles to escape the full rigors of financial analysis and of their ability to follow through and so on. Thank you, Chair.
I think there's just about enough scope to separate that from the motion. Councillor Maguire.
Currently, and similar to some fellow councillors, I do believe there's a certain amount of confusion sitting in here. Now, I've listened to Councillor Coffey as clearly as I think I could. Within his comments there's a certain amount of innuendo about individuals that are dealing with this issue. I'm not so sure that we as a council can just buy in on the say-so of one particular councillor with such innuendos built into the phrases. I'd like some clarification on that particular issue, because it's slightly away from any other proposals I've ever seconded or voted on in the council. Like innuendos about people's banking in Virgin Islands, etc., whereas there may be fact in there. I'd be very reluctant to back anything that has that built into it as a council proposal. Maybe through the chair, the chief executive, give us some advice on that particular type of language. It's very unusual language for a council proposal, in my opinion.
Awesome.
Well, Chair, I would agree it's quite vague. I mean, generally the council would be specific on such matters, so I would have thought either we wouldn't reference, for example, banking details in certain countries without knowing the full extent of those, or that we would maybe reflect the sentiment in a slightly different wording.
Well, we've got.
Sorry, Chair, if I could. Sorry, Chair.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
In response to that, I'm glad I raised the point, because the chief executive has just indicated, as I did, that there is not enough clarity and not a clear enough message within that proposal for me to support it, regardless of how much I would support the sentiment. But the vagueness and the innuendo built into it leaves it slightly hard to support. So maybe if Councillor Coffey could make a more clear and concise proposal with the sentiment singularly included and deflect slightly from the innuendo and stuff, we might be able to give it our full support. But certainly I'm very reluctant at this stage, given the comments he made. If you could, through the chair, maybe ask Councillor O'Coffey to reflect on the actual wording, so that we have a clearer understanding of what he is saying. Thank you.
Councillor Maguire, I will. I have 5 speakers in front of him, and I'm going to ask them all to be relatively brief, although they're entitled to their speaking time. Councillor Garrity.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I will be brief in same vein as Councillor Maguire. If Councillor Coffey could be more clear on it, otherwise I'd have to vote against. Or could I suggest that he can, in his own remit, write his own letter to whomever he wants? There's a lot of correspondence going on this council, and we're disappointed with a lot of our replies. I think that goes collectively for us, but this is a lot of confusion and time wasted. I think a lot of members are beginning to get quite frustrated. Thank you, Chair.
Chairman, point of order, Chairman.
Councillor Campbell.
Chairman, on a point of order, I mean, apologies for jumping in here, but is it not appropriate that a motion that has been tabled, that debate be left until that motion has been tabled? There seems to be a lot of similarities in the proposal here, and I want to, maybe the Chief Executive to clarify, should this debate not be left until the point in the agenda when the motion is being tabled, Chairman?
I think there's more in it. Chief Executive.
Chair, yes. Ultimately, Chair, it is your ruling, but I think the detail into which we are now straying on the back of the letter around licensing would appear to have a lot of common ground with the matters set out later in the motion. The general approach, as members will be aware, to motions is that something is set out to give members an opportunity to consider a position and to allow then for a considered discussion. And I imagine, certainly based on some latter comments, there's likely to be quite a bit of overlap.
Well, Chairman, could we not, Chairman, cease consideration until the motion is tabled in light of the Chief Executive's comments there about the overlap?
And Chair, just further to Councillor.
Whoa. I'm not having. Is this point of order or point of order?
Just on the same point, Chair. Further Councillor Campbell's remarks, can I propose that we note the correspondence as it is and leave further debate to the motion? In the interest of moving on.
You can indeed.
I'll second that.
Was that proposed and seconded before the other two, or are they taken?
No, you would still have your first proposal, Chair, but you have now a valid second proposal that you can consider as well.
I'll second it.
It's usually conventional to take them in the order that
yes.
they come. Can I take a recess in this one, or
if you wish?
Sorry, Chair, if you don't mind me coming in, Councillor Gannon here.
Go on ahead.
I could be wrong in regards to standing order, but if a proposal is made under standing orders to move on, I think is it not heard straight away? Is this not supersede other motion? I could be wrong in my reading, but
that's kind of what I was just clarifying, to be honest. Is that your understanding, Chief Executive? Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, the motion to move on is then
If,
taken
if accepted, yes, that's right.
accepted by
Thank you.
by me or by the proposer? By me. Well, just making sure we're all above board. I accept that and put it to the floor. Are we all in agreement with?
No.
No way.
I
It's
thought
your discretion, Chair.
Couple of
no,
points.
no. It has to go to the floor. Is that right, Chief Executive?
No, sorry, Chair. You have accepted the motion, the proposal to move forward.
Then it goes
You
to the
can
floor.
seek consent, but you can rule ultimately, Chair. It is your discretion to move on.
I'm putting it to the floor. I think that's the way. I'm putting that to the floor. I don't think that's the sort of decision you should be making unilaterally. So it's going to go to it's going to go to the floor. And I assume there's going to be a division on this. So Chief Executive, you.
Okay, Chair. So this is to proceed, move to
on.
note the correspondence and to move on. Councillor Armstrong.
For.
Councillor Baird.
For.
Councillor Blake.
For.
Councillor Buchanan.
For.
Councillor Campbell.
For.
Councillor Clark.
For.
Councillor Coyle.
For.
Councillor Curry.
Evaver, for.
Councillor Deehan.
Against.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Sean Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Stephen Donnelly is an apology. Councillor Elliott.
For.
Councillor Erskine.
For.
Councillor Feely.
For.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Avaver, for.
Councillor Gannon.
for.
Councillor Garrity.
For.
Councillor Green.
For.
Councillor Irvine.
For.
Councillor Keenan is an apology. Councillor Catherine Kelly.
For.
Councillor Podrigan Kelly.
For.
Councillor Maguire.
The high for.
Councillor McAleer.
This is the content, not the credit, so I'm against that one.
Councillor McCaffrey.
Lahai for.
Councillor McCann.
For.
Councillor McCloughery.
For.
Councillor McElduff.
Over. For.
And Councillor McPhillips has left, Chair. Councillor O'Coffey.
Against.
Councillor O'Reilly.
For.
Councillor Rainey.
For.
Councillor Robinson.
For.
Councillor Smith.
For.
Councillor Swift.
For.
Councillor Thompson.
For.
Councillor Thornton.
For.
Councillor Warrington.
For.
And Councillor Wilson.
For.
Okay, well that's passed. So if we now move on to page 6.
Chair.
What is it, a point of order or an interjection?
Yeah, it's a point of order. It's been stated that I've been banding around allegations around companies based in the British Virgin Islands.
That's not a point of order.
Well, it's a clarification because it's quite important to consider the full.
Look, no. The motion to move on has passed. That item is dealt with. Right, page 6.
Sorry, point of order, Chair. I have been indicating for some time.
Is it about the previous motion or the previous item?
It's a point of order.
Point of order, okay.
Thank you. Chair, you had indicated earlier that Councillor McAleer's proposal was seconded by Councillor O'Coffey, and then Councillor O'Coffey went on to make some additions. You said, if I recall correctly, that the additions which Councillor O'Coffey was proposing could be considered as a separate item. And I believe that the matters raised by Councillor O'Coffey as additional information were the matters that raised the controversy in the chamber.
I'm going
So
to ask
can you
you.
provide some clarification
I'm
on
going to
that?
ask you not to speak over the top of me, please. The council has decided to move on that item, and therefore
Which item, Chair?
That being
The additions of Councillor O'Coffey or the original proposal by Councillor McAleer?
The entire item certainly has I, and therefore we move on.
You indicated it was two separate items, Chair.
No, the item is there are two separate proposals. I accept, but the proposal, as I certainly understood,
That's not my understanding of it, Chair.
No, Chair, I was just going to perhaps to clarify, the proposal that has been accepted is that the correspondence is noted. So, and then you move on. So therefore all matters relating to that have now been noted and move on, and the matter will be discussed substantively when you reach the motion.
There we go. So there you go, Councillor Dehan. Page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10.
Yes, Chair, just really between page 9 and page 10, we have a number of letters just to refer to members. I do appreciate the first letter, which is 1321, beg your pardon, has already been considered by members. That's from the Minister of Health regarding COVID-19 testing centres. But also just to highlight to members the response from the Chief Executive of the Health and Safety Executive regarding the responsibility of this matter being with Minister for Health. And we also then have a separate letter from the Minister of Health regarding PPE for health service dentistry. They are the main matters, Chair, between pages 9 and 10.
Okay, we have a number of hands up that I think were up from beforehand. So just if you're not looking to comment on this, please take your hands down. Councillor Warrington.
Sorry, my hand was up in there. Sorry, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Campbell. You just remuted yourself there, Councillor Campbell. Okay, Councillor Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. It's in relation to the item on the dental PPE. There was the correspondence. I would like to make a proposal there to return to the Minister for Health. First of all, I note that there has been a commitment to address the costs of PPE, which is something which we as a council had written to seek, and that is obviously welcome. But I would like to raise a proposal back to write to the Minister for Health to request that the inadequate sums that are currently paid to
Was that you, though?
No, that's not me. Someone called Anne. Anyway, that the inadequate sums that are paid to dentists for NHS work, which has been exposed as a result of this COVID crisis, are reviewed. Currently, the amounts that are given to dentists to do NHS work is derisory, and it's undermining the whole provision of NHS dental services in general. And I would just like to raise that as a proposal that we revert back in light of the situation with the COVID crisis, which has exposed the weakness of NHS dental services, that the department reviews upwards all its provision in terms of the amounts it's providing to dentists to conduct NHS dental work, because it is really scandalous. You could be talking about £10 or £20 for a basic procedure, and the amount that the reason that this was such a crisis was that in the absence of PPE being provided, the cost of the PPE alone would be more than they were receiving of the government to do this work. Now, obviously, I would prefer this to be done in-house within the NHS, but in order to safeguard at least some basic NHS dental services, I suggest that we demand an increase in payment for those.
Okay, Councillor McCaffrey.
Carly, just in relation to two items of correspondence there, 13.21 and 13.22 and 13.24. No, it's just it's very clear that both the HSE and the department are ducking the responsibility, ducking the question here in regard to domiciliary care. And I think it also is highlighted by the health minister in that correspondence about the importance of having an independent sector as part of a combined national health service. I don't feel that those comments are actually reflective of how most of the public would feel, especially when you're talking around a pandemic. We know that an independent sector, by its nature, can detract resources in terms of staff and materials and other sorts of things away from the National Health Service. So really, the question has went unanswered, which I think is disgraceful, and just wanted to highlight that. Gormila Mogad.
Okay. Councillor Deacon.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I would like to second Councillor O'Coffey's proposal regarding NHS dentistry. Chair, NHS dentistry is in crisis, and the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted this. In the reply from the Minister in response to our concerns regarding the provision of PPE to general dental practitioners, the Minister states that £1 million worth of level 1 PPE was provided free of charge, and that 3.8 million was provided to the profession to enable them to purchase their level 2 PPE. The level 2 PPE is the minimum which is required for dentists to undertake procedures, aerosol generating procedures. The fact of the matter is that general dental practitioners still have the responsibility of sourcing these supplies. And as we face into a second surge of COVID-19, I feel that there is going to be very, very significant deficits and difficulties in obtaining that level of PPE. Now, if the BSO can provide general dental practitioners with level 1 PPE, why can they not supply level 2 PPE? Admittedly, it's more expensive, but it's vitally important that NHS dentistry is supported. And I think Councillor O'Coffey makes an excellent point. It's grossly underfunded, and it needs to be urgently addressed. So I do want to support that proposal, that we would write back to the Minister expressing our ongoing concerns about the underfunding of general dentistry, and also, if Councillor O'Coffey is agreeable, to ask that the Department of Health should consider the provision of level 2 PPE. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Coffey, are you agreeable to that? And that's a yes or no question, by the way.
Yes, I am.
Lovely. We have somebody here who is Anne. I'm assuming that's Anne-Marie. Councillor Fitzgerald. Okay.
Sorry, I did try and change it at the start of the meeting, but it's going to be done at the next meeting. Yes, Chris, wanted to come in there very quickly. Wise to see the Minister's response. I'm not quite sure if that is fact or not, but that is my view. I know that it is very difficult, and do appreciate the 3.8 million given out to provide level 2 PPE. But I believe it's the very minimum that the general dental practitioners should have. But I think they're still experiencing great difficulty, because I'm chatting to somebody the other day at my work, a colleague, and they were still quite shocked and alarmed at their visit to their dentist recently, and they had to give over an additional £100 for level 2 PPE equipment for both the dentist and his assistant. And he came out quite shocked and alarmed and was asking, was anybody else? And not that this was in the Omagh area, this was in the Fermanagh area, and he couldn't believe it, that an NH dentist, that he had to give over an additional money. Now, I'm only really relaying a story, so I haven't personal experience, but I think there are still great difficulties out there, not only of people trying to get to their dentist, people are turning up in A&E. I feel there's a lot more work to be done, and I feel that the Minister should maybe put this more higher priority, ensure that the dentists have their PPE gear, and ensure that that dentists up their game in this field, and ensure that people are getting in and not turning up on casualties for long waits. That was it. Just a point, and I just want to associate myself with Councillor Kofi's remarks as well. Councillor Deacons, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Feely's up next. Anthony. Right, we'll swing back to you. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, fully supportive of the previous speakers. I think that's a very vital and important issue that we raise. Similarly, an issue has been brought to my attention in relation to special education needs provision during this time, and the fact that that's actually still outstanding for some. I'm aware, sort of through my own investigation, that there are actually currently still 5 pupils across the north without a school place for the current academic year, and I'm following up to try and clarify if there are any within this district area. But just to note that following last week's impact review of the special education needs by the Comptroller and Auditor General, I would actually propose that the Council respond to any SEN consultation as a result of this, and as a follow-on from the NIAO 2017 report on special education needs. And in a similar vein, I would, and I hope the Council would too, condemn the heartless and ableist comments made by Deputy Editor of the newsletter in a recent response to the impact review, and I would call on the Council to do likewise. It's my understanding that these comments have quite rightly been...
Hold on, Emma, where are these coming from? How are these in any way relevant to...
Sorry, we're dealing with a number of correspondence there in relation to health issues as the offshoot of the COVID-19 pandemic.
How is a comment by the Deputy Editor of the newsletter in any way linked to that? Honestly, like.
Well, Chair, I don't know if you're familiar with the comment that he posted in relation to the funding for special education places locally or not, but I would imagine that if you're familiar with it, you would understand how relevant and how apt it is that this be brought at this juncture.
Well, I do know the comment you're talking about, and I certainly am aware of them, but I just don't really see how. I just don't see how those are relevant. But anyway, you made a number of other proposals. Alice, if you could.
Yes, Chair. It was, I suppose, specifically regarding the difficulties of Councillor McAleer referenced 5 people across Northern Ireland, and he was doing further investigations to see if there are any district impacts in relation to the difficulties associated at the moment with special education needs. Had proposed that the Council would respond robustly to any forthcoming consultation, and that's as far as I have it, Chair, from the proposal perspective, and then went into comment on the comments that you have highlighted now.
Yes. If I could conclude there, just that.
Go on ahead. Try and keep them relevant, please.
Yeah. So no. Well, I would, in relation to what's been said there, I would actually call on the Deputy Editor to retract and hopefully offer a full and sincere apology to those who he has upset and offended, not just in our area, but right across the north and elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, some members may not have sight of these comments. I think that's more appropriate to put in as a motion, but I don't think it's appropriate to ask individuals who may not have sight of those comments to then vote on them. And I'm not really going down a divergence on that. So the other 2 stand. At present, not seconded. Yeah, at present, not seconded, but I'm sure they will be in time. So I've got hands up from Councillor McCaffrey, Councillor Fitzgerald, Councillor McAleer, Councillor O'Coffey, and Councillor Warrington. Anyone who has already spoken, please take your hands down. Councillor O'Coffey?
I'll just formally second that.
That's all right. Okay.
Sorry, Chair, Councillor Gannon here. Just Councillor Gary's having some tech issues. If someone could help her out there, meeting stalled on her.
Okay, well, we'll send some IT down that way. So who seconded that proposal again? Was that Councillor O'Coffey? Oh, let's see. And Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, just to basically make a comment on the letter with the dentists. we are in unprecedented times, and certainly we appreciate that things have been difficult. You know, at the end of the day, the majority of dentists, and I know I'm going tomorrow, and the majority of dentists are privately owned. And what Councillor Fitzgerald said there, where one individual was asked to pay £100 extra for the PPE. That's like, I'm not, don't have really much understanding what PPE costs, but you know, £100 certainly sounds an astronomical amount for one patient. I know certainly that things are difficult in there at the minute, but I don't want to be overly harsh on the whole thing. You know, there has been over 4 million spent on it so far, and yes, of course, we need more money for it, but we need more money for a lot of stuff. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I have proposed and seconded for. I've got a proposal by Councillor O'Coffey, seconded by Councillor Deehan, around the review of payments for dentists. I'm going to take that first. Anyone who wishes to vote against, please indicate now. Nope. Okay, so I'm going to take that as passed. Second one from Councillor McAleer, seconded by Councillor Coffey, which I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to clarify.
That's Chair, just again expressing concerns regarding the special educational needs provision at this time, and propose that the Council responds to any forthcoming consultation on this subject.
Okay. Anyone who wishes to vote against, please indicate now. Okay. We have an unseconded proposal by Councillor McCaffrey, but I think that was more just a highlight. I'll just make members aware of that. So now if we move on, on page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13.
Yes, Chair, just on between really page 12 and 13, we have, correspondence. 2 items, Chair, from the Taoiseach in relation to the recent findings about the pandemic unemployment payment that is appended to the papers, dated the 15th of September, and it's item 13.3, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Warrington, your hands up, but I'm assuming that's an error. Councillor Curry.
Yes, Gormagad Caherley. Thank you, Chair. I suppose with the firefighting and the various shambles going on in Leinster House since the new government was shackled together, I suppose we shouldn't be surprised that a letter sent several months ago has been thrown around a bit like a hot potato, and we've received a response like this. The EU came back in July and pointed out that it was at the discretion of the Dublin government who they awarded the pandemic unemployment payments to. So, that was raised by now our local MEP, Chris McManus. He raised that with the European Commission. And several months later, we have this Minister's Department still hiding behind it's just untrue what they're saying. I know Minister Humphreys, it says here she's too busy to answer us herself, but she's showing a real lack of decency and empathy in not aiding cross-border workers. And I'd expect more of a Monaghan Chactadala, who must surely be aware of the numbers, certainly from around this area, travelling into Monaghan to work daily. And in my area, in our north, we've people travelling, working in Ballyshannon, Bundoran, and even further afield. And a lot of those people are working actually in the hospitality industry, and they've really suffered throughout these months. And here they are again, in lockdown again. They're paying into a system, and they should be supported by that system like every other citizen. So I can see here what's happening, and I can see a case of repeating this act again and again. I think it has actually been a really disgusting political decision here by this current government. But I feel that we have to write back to help clarify to Minister Humphreys, to her, that we understand that it is up to her and the government to do the right thing. And there is no EU restriction preventing this. Residents of this district working in the 26 counties should not be financially disadvantaged. It's just wrong. And just also, as detailed in the minutes there, we had previously asked if a breakdown on numbers of cross-border workers from this district could be provided. So I just look forward to that. But I'd just like to make that a proposal, please, Chair Gormagat.
Okay. Councillor Feely, you're up next.
Happy to second that. Same, I was very disappointed with this letter that we've got back here. Like, members of my own family even works in the south there. People working in the south, living in the north, paying their taxes down there and not getting a penny back. I'm going to say no more because Councillor Curry's kept covered everything. But happy to second it. I'm very disappointed with it, but not surprised.
Thank you, Councillor Feely. Councillor McCaffrey.
Gurmail Margaret Carly, I'm not going to delay too long on this because I agree fully with the two previous speakers, Councillor Curry and Councillor Feely, and would concur fully with what Councillor Curry has put to the council tonight. Look, it is very disappointing, and I know we're talking here about people, cross-border workers working north and south. We don't even have to use that terminology. People working a matter of miles away. I'm like every councillor, I'm sure, will have I've had constituents raise this issue. I know of a business owner in my own area who employs 5 people just in a neighbouring county, a matter of miles away down the road, 20 minutes down the road. And the people that he employs, because they live in one county, are able to avail of the scheme. However, he, as a business owner who pays not only wages and obviously business tax and everything else, is now not entitled to a payment. And it is up to Minister Humphreys and Tara Humphreys, and up to the Rialtas na HÉireann and the Seacon to the 26 county government to make this decision. We've been lied to before. They're clearly sticking to that lie, which nobody believes, and it is a matter that absolutely needs to be raised. So I would be fully in agreement that we write back and put pressure on them to do the right thing.
Okay, and finally, Councillor Swift.
Gormagat, and concur with all the previous speakers on this serious topic. The Dáil Éireann, Leinster House, are totally against the EU directive, and Chris Smith, in his investigations, found out that it is up to that government to most definitely to make payments. So why are they not making the payments for the frontier workers? It's just not good enough. So all the ministers and all the Chapter Dáil that are responsible need to hear back from us. So I fully support and concur with that. And it is interesting to note different speeches that are coming out from the Dáil at the minute. They reference James Connolly when it suits them, in support of socialist policies, and not good enough. Yeah, it was Chris McManus, actually.
I was getting a wee bit worried there, to be honest.
I was wondering what you were laughing at. You see, you're more frequent with me than Chris McManus is. And thank you, Siobhan, for putting that correction into the chat. Very good. But just to conclude, one of my favourite restaurants in the whole wide world is closed down now in the lockdown until the 29th, I think, of October. And all those workers, the frontier workers who live across the border, are going to be suffering again. And I suppose if there was ever the case where there has to be an all-Ireland approach to all of this COVID, this is certainly another example of it. So if all the comments can be included in Councillor Curry's proposal, and thank you all for the correction, keep me right. Thank you.
Alison?
Yeah, Chair, it's just to advise members, and I'm sorry, I thought we had circulated. According to the 2011 census, which is the most up-to-date figures we have, there are 1,351 people from the council area either working or studying in the Republic.
There you go. So I have a proposal and a seconder for that. Anyone who wishes to vote against, please indicate now. Councillor Swift, take your hand down because I doubt you wish to vote against this. Councillor Maguire.
Good morning, Carly. Just on light of what the Chief Executive has added to the discussion there, if that number could be included in the letter to indicate that it is a real issue within this council area.
She's nodding. I think that's well within the scope of things. So anyone wish to vote against, please indicate now. Now I've got 2 hands up, so it makes it easier for me if the hands are taken down. Councillor Maguire and Councillor Swift. Yeah, I don't think either wish to vote against, so I'm going to take that as passed. If we now move on to page 13.
Yes, Chair, thank you. We have 2 items again of correspondence just on 13 and into 14 from the Western Health and Social Care Trust. The first regarding mental health vulnerable support services, and the council had also asked for details in relation to the Pathfinder project and the work that's underway, together with contact details of directors, and that is detailed on the second letter, Chair. So both of those for members' consideration.
Okay, Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alison, for your summary. Yes, this is correspondence from Dr. Anne Kilgallen. Point number 1, mental health vulnerable support services, in which Dr. Kilgallen reassures us that during the pandemic that mental health services have not stopped. Well, they may not have stopped, Chair, but they certainly have been impacted greatly by the COVID pandemic. And I think that given that we're facing into a second surge, we need to have a fallback position to protect mental health services. Now, Dr. Kilgallen references the Department of Health document, the Mental Health Action Plan, published in May of this year, in which 38 actions are put forward, including the commitment to develop a mental health strategy and also to put in place a comprehensive funding plan for mental health services. Chair, mental health services have traditionally been the Cinderella of the health services. In her second letter, Dr. Kilgallen states that the Trust does not commission services from the community and voluntary sectors, but does coordinate funding on behalf of the Public Health Agency. Well, Chair, given the increased reliance on community and voluntary sector to provide mental health service, I think that the Trust should reconsider formally commissioning services from the community and voluntary service. And indeed, Chair, if you look at the sums that Dr. Kilgallen references, the funding provided through the Department for Communities Neighbourhood Renewal, you can see that the absolute amounts are very, very small and go nowhere near meeting the demand that is out there. I want to bring to the Council's attention the closure of the daycare provision services at Mallard in Omaha. These were daycare services provided for patients with severe and enduring mental health problems. Initially, these services were suspended because of COVID, ostensibly, but now we learn that they have been permanently closed. I would like to propose, Chair, that we write to Dr. Kilgallen, asking her for clarification on why these services have been closed, and also, as earlier suggested, that the Trust should explore and reconsider commissioning services from the community and voluntary sector on which the Trust relies increasingly for provision of mental health services. I'm glad that Pathfinder has identified mental health as one of their 5 areas for exploration, and I would hope that this engagement would support my proposal that the community and voluntary service need to be commissioned and properly resourced for provision of those services. So those are my proposals, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor O'Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to formally second the proposal there from Councillor Behan, and very well made points. And the closure of any health facility, NHS facility in this area should be opposed. Where there's no excuse potentially for using the COVID crisis as a cloak for wider restructuring and rationing of services under austerity. So that's something that I very much support. I would also, if possible, like to extend the response slightly that has been proposed. I note in particular the reference on page 1 of the first document stating that mental health services have not stopped and that all that need care and treatment will be provided with services that are clinically appropriate. I'm receiving, I'm sure I'm not the only councillor, numerous constituents indicating that they have mental health diagnoses and they are unable to obtain the support that they require. So it's rather opposite to what's been said there. And in particular, I understand that SPNs, that's practice nurses, are no longer operating out of hours, and that has particular impact for those with mental health issues who are requiring, for example, injections alongside trying to hold down full-time jobs. So you can imagine the sort of scenario if they have to try and take days off to get treatments and injections and so on. So that's something I would like to raise. Finally, I just would like to also point out that the initial letter sent by the Chief Executive on our behalf, following on pretty much from queries I know I'd raised myself around the Pathfinder project, we looked for a detailed a description of the Pathfinder project. We were provided with details on one of the 5 segments of the Pathfinder project. So again, I would like to see further detail on the other 4 aspects of the Pathfinder project, which have not been provided by the Chief Executive of the Western Trust. Thank you, Chair.
Some sort of feedback there. I have Councillor Glenn Campbell up next. I just think it might be interesting for members to remember that there is a health and social care meeting coming up, and it may be an idea to raise some of those specific issues or to put those on the agenda. Councillor Campbell.
Chairman, and I will be brief, and I want to raise again, Chairman, and it's related to mental health, but also related to physical health, the issue of access to local GPs. And it's essential, obviously, for those concerned about both mental and physical that they have that access. And this matter has been raised with me by a number of concerned constituents throughout the past number of months. And I want to first of all say that I have the utmost respect for the professional integrity of GPs and of all other medical staff. And I'm aware there's a difference between the management of GP surgeries and general NHS services. I'm also aware that we're living through an unprecedented global pandemic and that health advice and guidance changes on a daily basis. However, from the patient perspective, I really feel there is ongoing concerns that need to be addressed, that access to GPs remains too restrictive at this time, that those with serious health concerns are not able to avail of face-to-face consultation and examination. I'm concerned, as many others are, that serious health concerns going unchecked at this time will have a serious impact down the line. And I believe we must find a better way that face-to-face access can be increased whilst protecting both the GPs and the surgery staff. So I have no doubt, Chairman, that for some health concerns, telephone calls and Zoom meetings have a role and they should be used. But when a patient feels they need to be seen in person by their GP, I believe a safe way of facilitating this can and should be found. I'm also aware, as you rightly stated, Chairman, that there is an opportunity on the 20th of October at the Health and Social Care Services Group meeting. And I know that my party colleagues have ensured that this will be an agenda on that meeting. And I would support that committee in progressing this matter and really getting attention shown on this area and getting something done to improve GP access at this time, Chairman.
Okay. Councillor Green.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I would absolutely agree with everything Councillor Campbell's after saying. there has been locally in my area, I get at least 1 or 2 calls a day about people trying to get access to services, and between waiting an hour or more on phones and not being answered and one thing and another, it is there's just something wrong where people can't get in to see their GP. There was some statistics that I believe possibly needs to be looked into. I think it was back in the end of June when the death rate was at its height, when Britain was coming up to around 40,000 deaths. The 5-year average of deaths in general was 62,000. It was 62,000 over the 5-year average, but it was 40,000 COVID-related deaths. So there was another 22,000 deaths that was unconnected to COVID-19. So there's almost a third of deaths going by them stats, where I would presume from people from suicides to people not getting access to cancer treatment, to heart treatment, to all of them other treatments that they would normally get. So there is no point in us locking down for COVID and that if we're going to let people then die from other things that would normally be treated. So just I'll throw them stats out there, and I think people that's far smarter than me will be able to delve into that and look at it in due course. But I think there is a serious problem around people getting access to the medical provision.
Just before you go, Seamus, are you highlighting, or have you got a specific proposal on the back of that?
Well, I would quite like maybe to write to the department and query them figures and query them for the north. That was a British stat. So I presume the same type of stat would be in the north, and it would be interesting to know what the 5-year average of deaths is and how much we're over it. And then how many of them deaths are COVID related, so that we could actually get a handle on how many people is dying needlessly because they're not getting access to services. And I think that's a major issue. And people every day are bringing it up because they're not getting their access to services, all sorts of services, including mental health service. So I would propose that we do write to the department and around them stats and find out what they are for the north.
Okay. Councillor Coyle.
Thank you, Chair. No, I concur with all the other councillors and access to services, but I do find I was wondering if we could make a proposal just to write it to the, as Anne Kilgallen has said about, our, community-led organisations, and Councillor Deehan has said that there is a pitiful kind of amounts of money. Would it be possible to write to the Department of Communities? And if we could ask the Chief Executive about, the neighbourhood renewal. I know we have small areas within the council. It doesn't cover our rurality, and maybe that there would need to be, CC'd into the Minister, Carol McQuillan, for to see what if there was extra funding for our rural area.
Chief Executive.
I suppose just on a point of clarity, the Department for Communities will only fund populations of 5,000 and more. So therefore Enniskillen and Omaha would be the only two eligible parts of the district for funding. So perhaps it would be whether we would look at the Minister of Health or other relevant departments in terms of funding for rural areas to ensure there's appropriate provision across the district.
Well, if that's the case, maybe we should send it to the Executive's office and the Minister of Health for their
to look at, because if we're in a rural area and all of our district isn't being covered, we really need to make sure that people are getting the services they need. So if the letter states, that more funding needs to be allocated to these community-led organisations, it would be needed at this time. And thank you, Chair.
I'm just conscious that we're kind of stacking up quite a lot of
Chair.
Hold on, Bert. You're in the mix, but
Right.
you're in the mix. But just give me a wee second here, because we have quite a few proposals here building up, and I wonder if we could maybe, I can't see them being controversial, and if we could maybe just get them dealt with in turn. So I initially have a proposal by Councillor Deehan and seconded by Councillor O'Coffey, which looks at sort of a number of specifics, Chief Executive, around, was it Listen Mallard?
Yeah, two aspects. I suppose, firstly, given the second surge of COVID-19, the need to have a defined fallback position to ensure the protection of mental health services, and then separately, the reference made to the suspension of mental health services at Listen Mallard, and that we would write to the Western Health and Social Care Trust to seek urgent clarification regarding the reinstatement of those services, and then separately that we would seek the Trust to investigate all potential community delivery models for mental health services. We then had Councillor Coyle's. Oh, sorry, Chair, maybe you want to pause at that point?
I think if we just take them one by one.
Okay.
So, I mean, I can't see these being massively controversial.
Chair, I just wanted to support Dr. Deehan's proposal. I have on occasion visited Listen Mallard, and I do know that someone has closed. Quite a lot of people, or ones that attended it, are really, they're really missing. It was a family atmosphere. The staff were first class and all the rest, and they look forward to going to that. And I do believe that yes, it needs to be, those services needs to be reinstated. So I would support that proposal as well.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put it to a vote now. I can't see it being a problem. Anyone who wishes to vote against that proposal, please indicate now. I'm going to take that as unanimously passed. So we now moved on. Chief Executive, there was a second proposal then, wasn't there, to query the figures? Has that been seconded?
Not yet, Chair,
okay,
no.
Well, then we'll leave it for the time being. And next, so Councillor Campbell and Councillor Green both still have hands up. I think those are from the last time. So next, Councillor Erskine.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I know that recently myself, I was discussing with you about mental health, and obviously COVID has really shone a light on the matters that have existed pre-lockdown, but lockdown has not been kind. And I think as a council, we need to sharply look at how we do our business and support in terms of, delivery of mental health services and all of that. And I know we're not doctors per se, but I would propose that we actually have a special meeting with the Health and Social Care Board to look at how we best as a council can support and signpost our constituents. And perhaps this meeting should be extended to all councillors. And
Councillors, not to cut across you, but it can be quite difficult to get everything in there. Would you be happy that would go as an agenda for the Health Liaison Committee, Health and Social Care Liaison Committee, or would you prefer it? I'm not sure that we could facilitate anything else.
Okay, I just think it's such an important issue, and we could probably have a separate meeting all by itself, just dedicated to this meeting. But happy to take the views of how best we can facilitate that, Chair. But just furthermore, this isn't perhaps related to this proposal, but I just want to clarify and check that our public-facing members of staff from the council have had mental health training, and particularly in our marriages, births and deaths section, because I'm sure we're aware, there has been many deaths in the district, and and although perhaps, due to COVID and things like that, it has really taken its toll on people. And I just want to ensure that we have that, staff trained, to deal with maybe particular instances that may present to them. As for many in our district, that is the public face of our council. So can I just check that, members of staff have got training?
Yes, Chair, I can confirm, and we have a whole suite of additional supports as well, and a variety of interventions around resilience and personal well-being right across our employees.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and you're happy to push that as an agenda for the health and social care meeting?
Yes, Chair, I think it's a very, very important issue, and if we could have that as a priority for that meeting, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, that's okay. We have quite a number of unseconded proposals right now. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, if Councillor Erskine needs a seconder, I'm prepared to second that one. But I just want to make obviously a couple of other comments. I know we had a lot of speakers and probably we're going over the same thing. But it's I know as councillors, we get a lot of representations to us by constituents, particularly with regard to general practitioner access, and that includes Omaha Hospital and Primary Care Complex. And I know the way it's operating at the minute. I've heard stories, and some very personal stories of this issue, and sending maybe a photograph or something of a very personal issue to the GP is not the way forward, as I would see it. And it's one of these things we definitely have to look more into it. And if that's going to come up on our liaison meeting with the trust, that's probably a good way to go. And I'm happy enough to second
I would
proposal there at the priorities.
I would say, Councillor Thompson, that I know in the past when sort of GP things have been raised at the health and social care meeting, they sort of they describe them as the responsibility of Western Urgent Care rather than ourselves, or rather than that committee. But I suppose the question can always be asked.
Well, sorry, Chair, if I can come back.
Yeah, go on ahead. Yeah,
I know what they're going to say. It's still very relevant. As you say, the constituent out there doesn't discriminate against or with regard to any of these bodies. It could be a trust, it could be the board, it could be the GPs, whatever. It's all the health service.
No,
as far as
I
I'm
get
concerned.
that.
So, as far as I'm concerned, this needs to be a priority. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to come in a second. Councillor Coyle's proposal there, rural is too often forgotten, and he's raised the points well there. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so we've got two proposals here. If we take them in the order they were proposed and seconded, that would be Councillor Erskine, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Which Chief Executive wishes to clarify for the records?
Well, Chair, really that is just that we include as a priority item on the forthcoming meeting of the Health and Social Care Group regarding the members' concerns about mental health services provision and the need for this to be fully prioritised.
What about Councillor Thompson's extra bit around GPs and things?
Yeah, with Chair, what we would do normally is we would share the agenda with the trust, and if we need to invite any other representatives to deal with the matters, we would intend to do so.
Okay.
Chairman, can I come in and thank Alison for the clarification there? Obviously, going along with my comments there, I would propose that representatives of the GPs be brought in maybe into that meeting for to be able to answer the matter.
Okay, I'm gonna quickly ask for that to be seconded because I can take three of those in one go. Do you have a seconder for that?
I'll second that as Councillor Erskine here.
Okay.
Chair, can I just come in here? I've had my hand up.
Right, my hand's up too, Chairman.
Yeah, there are about 6 hands up at the minute.
Right, we'll go to the hands, Chair, with respect. Thank you.
Well, if we go to take them in order, Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. No, it's supportive of what's been said before. and hopefully the council will be agreeable to them, and maybe it's something that's already in the pipeline. But just mindful of the month that we're in, October the 10th is World Mental Health Day, and I believe October the 23rd is Breast Cancer Awareness Day. So I would propose that the council buildings be lit up on both those days. I think green is for the mental health, pink for the breast cancer awareness. So
that's already been progressed already, but your comments are noted.
No problem.
Okay.
Sure. We do have a series of events that we mark, so they're not included routinely on the agenda.
Okay. Councillor Dean, you've been in before, so I'm going to bring you in at the end. Councillor Feely?
Thank you, Kay. I'll be brief here, and I agree with having my two colleagues who said, Councillor Green and Councillor Campbell. I just want to second Councillor Green's proposal there, Chris. Okay.
Okay. Did I see Councillor Garrity, or is that down now? Councillor Warrington?
Thank you, Chair. Well, I obviously want to support what Councillor Thompson is asking for, but at the end of the day, the Trust has made it clear at previous meetings that the GPs are not within their remit, and I think if we're going to have a meeting, we need to invite the relevant bodies, and I don't think we can pair the two meetings together. I think we need to have a separate meeting if we want to discuss GPs, because there's no point in posing questions to the Trust members, because they're just going to fob them off, for the want of a better word. We need to invite the relevant bodies to discuss these issues. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Warrington. I don't think these are entirely. I don't think those are completely incompatible. I was wondering, Councillor Thompson, if you might amend your proposal for a separate meeting, and then I think those marry. Would you be content with that, Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I know Councillor Erskine already asked for a separate meeting there, and we were talking about our own health social care services group.
I'll bring you in.
Maybe it's. And I heard what Alison had said earlier on. It's something that we need to have a discussion on, because I don't know what the Trust will say, and I heard what Councillor Warrington has said. It's very important that we get the reaction from the GPs, and I know we have Councillor Dehan here as well, and no doubt she can come in on it.
Oh no, she's on the line. Yep.
That doesn't get away from the fact that we're getting representations from our constituents with regard to this very important issue, as well as mental health. GPs, access to the GPs is very, very important. And whatever way we get around that, as far as I'm concerned, it has to be done. If you want me, I'll ask for clarification from Alison first, and if it needs a second or a different proposal, I'm prepared to make that.
Okay, Alison?
Okay, Chair. I think firstly, Councillor Erskine had proposed a special council meeting in the first instance, and it was suggested that we would, or had the opportunity through the healthcare group, that it maybe would be timely and we could get that convened more quickly. In terms of the different representatives, Chair, we have had previous healthcare meetings in the past where, for example, the board have come down, the Trust have come down, so the relevant representatives have been there for the appropriate agenda items. I would agree certainly that the Trust is unlikely to deal with these matters, but I think if we would share the agenda, we would be able to invite the correct representative body who could deal with members' queries. Now, if there is a preference to split and to have a second healthcare meeting, we could certainly do that, but again, it's really a matter for members. It might be beneficial to try and get the matters included on a single agenda, but just to make sure the relevant bodies are there.
Chairman,
Councillor Thompson, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Alison, for the clarification again. I'm prepared to let it stay as it is, as long as we have the different representatives. We invite the different representatives of the different bodies to come along and hear what we have to say. Be prepared to give answers to us. So I think that our meeting still stands as it is.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
That's okay, Councillor Thompson. I'm trying to see anyone who hasn't spoken yet. Councillor Garrity,
Thank you, Chair. And initially it was in the second Councillor Green's proposal, but it is done there, so appreciate that. I just want to say more of a point of information. This is a common feature that's affecting all of us as elected representatives, and I am sure each councillor has been in talks with their own relevant GPs, as I have, and I welcome the meeting certainly, but we all are aware that different GPs can operate a slightly different system. And just in defence of the GPs, and I know people need to see them, on a prior to COVID, they would have had maybe a 15-person slot a day, whereas now they're taking calls from first thing in the morning, maybe up to 6 o'clock, and seeing maybe half a dozen people, depending on your practice. So I know they are stretched too, but we have to get a common ground. But I am sure that each elected member is going to their own relevant practice and getting the information back to their constituents, whereby when we do get the delegates in to answer general queries, that we will get them too. But if any representative hasn't done that, I would urge them to get it, because they will give you the answers quite swiftly, and that'll be direct to your area. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I think it's probably appropriate for Councillor Deehan, who is next in line anyway, to come in before we go to a vote, given the knowledge. Councillor Deehan.
Thank you for that. And, you know, Councillor Campbell does raise an important issue in terms of GP access and how that impacts on diagnosis of potentially serious medical conditions. And this is something that the medical profession has highlighted. And certainly we express a great deal of concern about that. We currently believe that there probably is quite a reservoir of undiagnosed serious illness out there. And initially, the reason for that was because people were afraid to come into healthcare settings in case of contracting COVID. And that was a very real fear. Speaking as a general practitioner, I know there has been a lot of debate publicly about the issue of GP access. It will surprise members to hear that members of the general public have better access than ever before to their general practitioner. Now, admittedly, it is not always face-to-face contact, and I acknowledge, Chair, that face-to-face contact is the gold standard. But from the very outset of the pandemic, speaking for Omaha Primary Care Centre, we went into lockdown mode at a very early stage in the pandemic. And I believe that that contributed to the very low rates of COVID that we saw in our council area. General practitioners have been working harder than ever. At the beginning of the pandemic, we were meeting every single morning at 8:30 to monitor progress and to see what we could do to ensure patient safety. Our main objective was then and remains to reduce footfall to healthcare settings. And I have to acknowledge the hard work and cooperation of the community pharmacists who undertook to come to the GP practices and collect prescriptions so that patients did not have to come and collect their prescriptions themselves. So they played a key role. As we know, and we have debated in this chamber before, how much general practice primary care is under-resourced. The difficulties that we have had in recruiting general practitioners to this area, and the fact that even prior to the pandemic, GPs were really very, very overworked and under-resourced. Many of us worked straight through from March until August without even a single break. And the fact of the matter is that primary care is at breaking point. Now, general practitioners are independent contractors. We contract directly with the Department of Health. The Department of Health have introduced initiatives through the GP federations to support primary care, and these are welcome, but more needs to be done. And I think there is a good case for meeting with the Department of Health representatives also representatives from the British Medical Association, the primary care component, the General Practitioners Committee. Western Urgent Care is a separate organisation which provides general practice out of hours services. GPs have taken responsibility for the staffing of COVID centres. And frankly, Chair, we are doing everything that is possible to do to meet need out there. We wish there were more of us. We wish that we had more hours in the day, but we are where we are. But definitely, face-to-face consultations are limited. There are cases that definitely need to be seen and are being seen. And I want to acknowledge the work of the treatment room staff who at the beginning of the pandemic were handling all the blood tests for secondary care. So it's not certainly as if we were idling by and doing nothing. Chair, you may remark that I joined this meeting at 7:21 hours. That was because I've been working from 9 in the morning until 7 this evening with very little break. So I can assure members and reassure the general public that general practitioners are not being dilatory nor sparing in their efforts to address patient need. But Councillor Campbell is correct when he says that there is a concern regarding undiagnosed illness, and that is something that collectively we must seek to address. But it is important to support morale amongst the general public.
I'm going to be asking you to draw your attentions to it.
Please, Chair, we have a large agenda. Please do, please.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope, Chair, that provides some reassurance to members. And I'm happy to provide it. So on that basis, then, I'm happy to support this proposal that we meet with the relevant authorities to explore ways in which we can address the situation.
Thank you, Councillor Deehan. Please don't shout it out at other members over. I think it was important that Councillor Deehan had an opportunity to defend herself.
Sorry, Chair.
Councillor Maguire.
Councillor Maguire, just on a point of order. Councillor Deehan is well entitled to her opinion as a GP, but there were several we's in her submission there, and it wasn't we, the council. It's slightly conflicted in the response. I'm fully aware that she has a position within that, but generally speaking, if a councillor has an interest to declare, it should be declared. That was quite a contribution, but we were discussing GPs as the council. Just on a point of information for myself. Thanks.
Councillor Maguire, as you're aware, conflicts of interest and declarations of interest are a matter for the member and the member alone. Councillor Deehan is more than capable of making her own declarations if she feels she has to, and she hasn't. And I'm happy to proceed on that basis. Councillor Thompson.
Very quickly, and I hope Councillor Deehan wasn't taking it up wrong. That wasn't an attack on GPs per se. That was about access for our constituents. Some with very important issues. Just to clarify that. Thank you.
I think everybody has so everyone who's spoken, I'm going to ask you to park it. I have one from Councillor Armstrong.
I did have my hand up for some time, for quite a long time. I acknowledged that my hand was up, but I wanted just to clarify too that I certainly was not in any way. I said that I had the utmost respect for the professional integrity of GPs, and I stand over my comments. And in fact, the debate has moved on quite a bit, and it is right to say that the Western Trust does not manage GP services, and I have been referred by the head of communications of the Trust to the Health and Social Care Board. And I would actually suggest that we write to that board, that we write to the Health and Social Care Board, we write to the Health Minister, and we write to our Western Urgent Care, because this is an important issue, and nobody's attacking the integrity of GPs here. We're responding to the issues raised by constituents, and I make that a proposal that we actually write that the Health Committee will consider, I'm sure, and this pandemic evolves on a daily basis. There are matters that I'm sure between now and the 20th of October, but I'm proposing that we write to those three bodies now, Chairman.
Well, I'm going to take that separately. I'm stacking these up here, and they're going to become very, very difficult to go through. I think that we can take the proposal by Councillor Green, which I think sort of debate is over on, which is around querying figures. I think we can take that now. Anyone who wishes to vote against that, please indicate verbally now. Okay, so I'm going to take that as passed. The one around rurality, I think the debate is fairly over on. So I'm going to take a vote on that to get it sort of sorted out, which was proposed by Councillor Coyle, seconded by Councillor Gannon. Chief Executive, do you want to just, because it's been a while since that was proposed, to clarify it?
Chair, that was, I think, just in relation to that we'd be writing to the Department of Health, but also the relevant funded departments, Department for Communities and DAERA, around to ensure the provision of appropriate funds to support mental health services in rural communities, rural parts of the district.
Yep, okay. Anyone who wishes to vote against that, please indicate now verbally.
Sorry, Chris, not voting against, but can I second Councillor Campbell's proposal, please?
Hold on. Let's just get this. You can, absolutely you can, but just let me get this proposal out of the way. Anyone who wishes to vote against this, please indicate now verbally. Nope. Okay, so we're going to take that as passed. That was Podrick and Kelly. Yep. So I'm going to take Podrick and Kelly as proposing or seconding Councillor Campbell's proposal. We've got a number of indications from here, individuals who haven't spoke yet. Well, I think only Diana hasn't spoke yet. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. It's really just to wrap this up on a note that I know I've been giving reassurance to constituents that they can access further information very often on the GP's website. I know the extreme stress that primary care providers are under. There is access there. It gives information about how patients can be received either in the practice or home visits. I'm really heartened by that in Irvinstown that is happening. It possibly is happening in other GP practices, and I would really like a message to go out to constituents to look there and be informed that the advice is there, that may help them when they face a critical need. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Armstrong. I'm gonna. I think all three proposals are not mutually exclusive, and therefore I propose take them in the order they were proposed and seconded. The first one is by Councillor Erskine, seconded by Councillor Thompson, to bring mental health onto the health and social care agenda. Anyone who wishes to vote against, please indicate now. Okay, I'll take that as passed. The second one is vice versa. It's proposed by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Erskine, to seek a meeting with the relevant. No.
That's it, to include it as a priority item, Chair, on the forthcoming health and social care meeting, but to ensure that the appropriate representatives are available to discuss the matters.
Okay. Anyone wish to vote against that? Please indicate now. Okay, and the final one by Councillor Campbell and seconded by Councillor Kelly is a series of letters to...
It was to the Department of Health, the Health and Social Care Board and Western Urgent Care, restating, I suppose, the views around the integrity of the profession, but also highlighting the concerns that members have received.
Okay. Once again, anyone who wishes to vote against, please indicate now verbally. Okay, we'll take as passed as well. We still have two hands up by Councillor Campbell and Councillor Warrington. Are you looking in on this, or are they up from before? Councillor Campbell, hands still up. Yeah, there we go. So if we move on now, Councillor O'Coffey. That's quick off the mark.
I'm just going on to the next point then, yeah? 13.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair. It's I get a few name checks in the correspondence back from the Northern Ireland Water Department, and I just want to first of all clarify that I wasn't raising a hoax. I had my latest correspondence on this issue was dated the 6th of July. Our letter as a council went on the 25th, and I received the response on the 25th of August. And I received the response on the 27th of August. So it just shows potentially sometimes that a council can actually help councillors get responses. I want to highlight, and I think it's very important to put on public record, the content of this before making my proposal. Very, very briefly, this is a quote directly from the response. The funding cuts now have the potential to lead to cuts in service, reductions in water quality, and poor environmental standards. Now, the impact in particular on our council area is grave. There are 40 combined sewer overflows in our area who have 40 throughout the council area, 27 of which have unsatisfactory intermittent discharges, which are above the Northern Ireland Environment Agency safety thresholds. These discharges go directly into watercourses in our council area, and is particularly, I believe, why we're suffering such a rapid deterioration in the quality of our lakes and so on. Of the 27, which are the worst in category, 21 of which are in Enniskillen. So it just shows you the problem is concentrated in Enniskillen, where we have really chronic water infrastructure leading to pollution of our waterways. So I would like to propose that we write to the Minister for Infrastructure, highlighting these facts, and to request urgent investment. There has been a sum provided by the Department for Finance, I think 2 sums in fact, and I think it would be very good to see at least some of that go to deal with chronic water infrastructure deficit that exists, in particular in Enniskillen, where 21 of the 27 unsatisfactory intermittent discharges into watercourses in this council area exist. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I want you all to be perfectly aware of the time, which is now 59, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 speakers coming up. I would like to see this to sort of come to some kind of conclusion. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, well, I'll not rehash the points made by Councillor O'Coffey, and I would just hope that any correspondence to the Minister in relation to Lough Neagh has a better response to her wanting destruction of Lough Neagh as signed off last Friday. I would like to second Donald's proposal, and I would also make a further proposal myself, that we write back in relation to her comments on the bore wells issue, asking, is this confirmation that they don't actually know the impact of bore wells that have been drilled in our area? And secondly, a second proposal then to contact NIEA as advised in the letter to clarify what information they have, as was originally requested from NI Water. So 2 additional proposals. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Thornton.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I'm fully in support of Councillor O'Coffey. We've had the informal meeting with Aaron Anglers, fully aware of the problems around Enniskillen particularly, and it's having an adverse impact on everything. So with regard to it, I fully support what he said, and more or less I'll throw my support behind him.
Okay. Councillor Deehan.
Very briefly, Chair, I want to support Councillor O'Coffey and also ask if he will also write to the Minister for Finance, just in view of the gross underfunding of our infrastructure, which has been going on for decades. I think we need a significant investment in infrastructure, and if Councillor O'Coffey would agree that we send this request to the Minister for Finance to ensure that proper and adequate resources are made available to address these shocking deficits and a totally unacceptable situation which pertains. Thank you, Chair.
Donald, yes or no?
Happy.
Good. Councillor Curry.
Gormagada Keherly, yes. Just briefly, I'm glad and happy to support Corey O'Coffey's proposal. I'm glad he's doing it by speaking to the room instead of putting his comments up on chat, which are very offensive. Just in relation to what Corey Dean said there, I think we need to acknowledge that we've had 1.6 billion cuts since this Tory government has been in place, cuts to the grant, and that's what we're dealing with. We don't have finite resources. I do think more should be spent on infrastructure, but I think more should be spent on health, education and everything else as well. So I'm happy to support the proposal, but I'd just like to point that out. I don't think any of us are silly here. Gormagat.
Yep. Councillor Maguire.
I'm going to Kearney again. Happy to support Donald and his proposal there. The statistics that he read out there are shocking, though they don't come as any great surprise of us that are aware of the water quality around our county town of Enniskillen here in Fermanagh. Again, we're obviously all aware of the issue of the Gallia Shore debacle that has been left in a total environmental mess for so many years. But I'm happy to see, and again, we're probably not reaching on the agenda, so I'll move to it, the letter from Minister Mallard, where she said she was relying on funding coming from the Finance Minister, and I'm happy to report that since those letters came out, money has been allocated from the Minister of Finance to Minister Mallin's department in relation to NI water specifically, and I'm only very hopeful that the Gallia Shore issue in Enniskillen and obviously those other outstanding issues that Councillor O'Coffey has mentioned would also be dealt with some of that funding. So happy to support Gurmiagat.
Okay, Councillor Blake and Councillor Gannon, the last two speakers, and then we move to some kind of resolution.
Thank you, Chair. No, I would happily support what Councillor Dehan has already said regarding writing to the Minister for Finance, because speaking to the Minister for Infrastructure, she outlined clearly to me that NI Water has been underfunded to the tune of 60 million from the Executive, and the 15 million, which I welcome, to NI Water, and also the additional 27 million was additional funding due to the COVID-19 crisis, but there's still a massive shortfall in funding for NI Water. So I would support Councillor Dean and hoping that Councillor O'Coffey would add that to the original proposal.
Okay, Councillor Gannon, please, quickly. Just so
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Dehan's remarks are very appropriate and are in fact an essential addition to the proposal at hand. Yes, extra money was given, as said already, but it would be very misleading to suggest that it wasn't already allocated, as the Finance Minister already is aware, and as I'm sure the councillors are aware. The 20 sum of 27 million was to offset loss income from commercial users directly for COVID, and the 15 million was also by Finance Minister's guidelines needed to address projects delayed by COVID, and all those projects were brought before the Executive for transparency purposes. And in terms of the funding, to really emphasise how bad the funding has been, is since 2015, NI Water has been underfunded by an average of £142 million each year, meaning by next year there'll have been a funding shortfall of 710 million. 15 million, 27 million is great in COVID support funding. We're not going to knock that. But we need funding for infrastructure to deal with issues like Gallia Shore, and I was going to raise it at the time, Ravensbrae and Garrison, another area that is badly affected, and the issues raised by Councillor O'Coffey. And I think the Finance Minister really needs to take heed of the Infrastructure Minister's calls for a meeting, because in the next 6 years, NI Water, according to their Chief Executive, will require over £2 billion to address all the issues on the table across the north. And these issues are everywhere, and we can see it in our own wastewater treatment being in nearly every part of Fermanagh near capacity or over capacity at the minute. So we need massive financial support here, and anyone suggesting that this compared to what is needed. Small amount of money will fix these issues is in fact misleading members of the public. We need the finance minister, the infrastructure minister to come together, meet, and to properly address this issue of proper investment. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, right. I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to wrap up the two. I think there's two proposals from my. And then
yeah, well, Chair, we had firstly a proposal from Councillor O'Coffey, seconded by Councillor McAleer, that we would write to the DFI Minister requesting an urgent intervention and investment from Northern Ireland Water, and then that was expanded on Councillor Deehan's suggestion to include the Department of Finance Minister within that for appropriate finance to address the gross deficiencies in our infrastructure. And then second proposal was from Councillor McAleer, which was to clarify, first of all, whether this was confirmation from NI Water that they don't know the impact of bore wells, and that we would write then separately to NIEA to seek what information they hold.
Yeah, Councillor Coffey, I can't let you in. There is simply no time. There is simply no time. So we're going to take those two proposals. Going to take those two proposals one at a time. If we go for Donald's proposal first, if we have anyone who wishes to vote against it, please indicate now. Okay, I'm going to take that one as passed. And secondly, Councillor McAleer's proposal. Anyone who wishes to vote against it, please indicate now. Okay, that's also passed. Looking at the agenda, there isn't a mission that we will get through this within the half hour. Therefore, I propose that we close the meeting now. Thanks very much for.
Good night, everyone.
Convene, Chair.
Sorry?
Thanks, Chair.
Meeting, Chair.
Sorry, Chair. See, in terms of the business that's left to be done, is there arrangements in place to get this sorted out? I wouldn't even say we're 20% through this agenda.
I'm going to pass it to the Chief Executive now. I think we have looked. There's not a pile of space in the
Chair, we have looked at the agenda, the schedule, and members will be aware you have quite a hefty schedule for the month of October. Now, there would be two possible options, but I'm very mindful in the context of today's this evening's conversation that it may not be an appropriate suggestion, Chair. One would be that we would not proceed with the healthcare meeting, and that instead we would have a council meeting in the healthcare slot, which would be Tuesday the 20th from memory, Chair, but we would need to start that at 1:30 to allow for subsequent evening meetings. So that would be a suggestion. I do appreciate that is daytime. It's not our norm, but we haven't been able to identify a date in the evening because of the existing commitments that you have.
And then the second one being November?
Well, we would move, healthcare to November, or our only option then would be the November meeting. Just to say, Chair, I would concur with members' concerns about the extent of business that we're not getting dealt with, and obviously a number of matters this evening have been on the agenda now for some months.
Well, I think we leave that in your hands as to when the next meeting is.
Well, no, sorry, Chair, I would need a direction if members would be content that we would proceed to reschedule the healthcare meeting for as early as we can in November. And we would do a council meeting, reconvene at 1:30 on that Tuesday.
I have indications from Councillor Garrity.
Yes, Chair, thank you. I think to postpone, if I can clarify, the healthcare meeting is absolutely out of the question in light of the crisis that we're in. There's a lot of filibustering going on here throughout the night, and things have to be more concise going forward, or this is a pattern that's going to go on and on. I know it's difficult, and you're doing your best, Chair, and as everyone and people have valid points to make, but the healthcare cannot be restarted, in my opinion. Thank you.
Chair, can I also, Chair?
I'm going to jump across you just because the Chief Executive may have something to add here.
The only other, sorry, Chair, I'm just getting information through. The only other option would be Friday, the 23rd of October at 2 p.m. If that would be more amenable to members. I know members have previously indicated that Friday afternoons may work. So would that be an option? We would maintain healthcare, or we could swap healthcare to that date if that would be preferred.
I have a number of indications. Councillor Blake, was that from beforehand or not?
Yeah, sorry, Chair, I'll take that down.
Chair, if I can come in today and say, Chair, if I can come in and say briefly that the health meeting is extremely important given the discussions tonight. That shouldn't be moved. But what's also very important as well is the business that's on this agenda. And as the Chief Executive says, it's been on the agenda now. Some items have been on the agenda for a number of months. And this is a recurring theme, and it's something that can't be allowed to continue. Now, some members obviously work during the day, that's unavoidable, but some don't. And if we can form a court during the day, surely there's a space between now and the end of the month to form a quorum meeting to get this business done. Surely to God there is. You know, on Friday evening, Monday morning, there's event strategy working groups. Can they wouldn't be the most urgent? Can they be pushed back? But this, this business must be get done some way or other, and it can't be allowed to rumble on once a month, Chair.
Chief Executive.
Well, Chair, certainly if I have members' indication this evening that you're willing for us to look at the removal of some of those meetings or other working groups, we can certainly do that. I will need to look at the schedule, but if I could suggest, then could we consider this tomorrow evening with your council powers to reschedule at Environmental Services then tomorrow evening, and I will look at the options available, looking at the schedule in its entirety.
Agreed, Alison.
Will we have to devolve council powers?
It's just that we would, yes, I'd need a proposal and secretary council powers just to make your decision tomorrow evening then.
Chair, I'm happy to propose the council powers for the Environmental Services Committee to determine.
Fantastic.
Sorry, Chair.
There was an awful lot of noise there at once, and I didn't pick up anybody apart from a point of order from Councillor Gannon.
Yeah, just a procedural issue at this stage. Did you not just close the meeting already? If you didn't, that's okay. And I was also going to say, in your procedural sort of things, is it not in the council standing order / constitution that the meetings must be at 7 p.m? Do we not run into an issue there? Just a couple of queries.
No, we don't, Chair, because the council can change its meeting time and has done in the past. It would be a specific instance. It wouldn't be routine.
Yeah. So I
second Barry's proposal there, isn't it?
Councillor Feely, that's excellent. I would.
Chairman?
I don't know who that was.
Councillor Thompson, Chair.
Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, Chairman. Well, Councillor Gardy has referred to it at the start, and I don't want to hold the meeting up, but we need to get through this business. I'm not so sure. We have an event strategy working group tomorrow, so that's not going to work out. But I know I'm happy enough to support it coming before our Environmental Services Committee tomorrow evening for further discussion, and we'll see where we go from there. I have no problem, or my group have no problem meeting on the afternoon either. So we'll get the business done some way.
Thank you,
Chair. Thank you, Chair.
I have 6 indications now.
Point of order.
Go on ahead.
Point of order. I don't know what's going on here this evening, because I have my hand up there from, I don't know, and I've spoke very little tonight, and there's people jumping in and shouting, and to be honest, not criticising the chair, but I don't think that's on. We'll all start doing that if that's the way it's going to be.
It is certainly it's certainly appreciated when individuals don't. You were next in line. Councillor Duff. Hands up. But I'm not going through each one of these. There's 4 hands up. I suggest that unless there's a counter proposal to devolve powers to tomorrow's meeting, then I'm content that once it's passed, that the meeting's over. So anyone who has a counter proposal, please keep your hand up. If not, take your hands down. So I still have a hand up from Councillor Green, Councillor Duff, and Councillor McCaffrey. Councillor Duff. Nope. Councillor McCaffrey. Nope. Okay, I'm not taking any more. We're putting it straight to a vote. Anyone who wishes to indicate, that they're not happy with devolving of council powers to tomorrow's meeting to discuss a reconvened meeting, please indicate verbally now.
Point of order, Chair. Had you closed the meeting for clarification? You were asked that. If the meeting was closed, how can we take these decisions?
You hadn't. You were minded to close.
I was certainly minded to, but it isn't closed until the hammer falls, as the man says. Look, I certainly felt that I was minded to, but it wasn't closed. Look, is there any objection to devolving council powers to tomorrow night's meeting? Please indicate now. Right, that's passed. Meeting closed. Actually closed this time.
Hold on, Chairman.
Thank you.